本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。I miss you. What's good, Internet? It's Friday, October 9th, and you're listening to a special Hades Spoilercast episode of Waypoint Radio. I'm your host, Austin Walker. Joining me today, we have Gita Jackson.
Hello, I'm Gita, and I'm so excited.
Patrick Klepek.
I had a new desk. I'm deeply uncomfortable. And
you are? That's not the view I know.
Yeah,
No,
we're seeing
there's
you a different angle today.
Do not. The influencer is behind me. Do not shout his name.
Influencer?
The influencer. It's like, yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's not on the wall yet. No, I built an L-shaped desk last night during the. I was like, I guess the debate's on in the other room. I'm gonna be productive and build an L-shaped desk.
You were right. You were right too.
Incredibly
which is
suburban.
nice.
I love this.
But it's just different. I've been
Dad
at the same
dreams.
desk for like 7
as long
years.
As we've worked together, yeah.
And I had that desk even before we had the house, so it's the same. It's very similar, but it's just different. So I'm just here
It's good.
freaking out over a desk.
You're not as blown out as usual.
It's true because you're off
Yeah.
angle from the sun.
That's yes, I'm not right behind the.
You're well lit. This is nice. This is where you can
Thank
see
you.
your face.
I need to
better.
get one of those. What do they call them? The rings. What are those?
Oh, ring light.
Yeah.
I almost bought a ring light. I
What are
did.
these?
Oh, you got one.
Look
I
at
got one. Yeah.
Anyway,
Now I'm going to buy a ring light.
could-
Now that I know
yeah.
that someone else I know has one.
Yeah, fuck it. Listen, it's time. I can't turn it off. Oh, yeah, I can. Look, ready? Boom. Now it's on.
Does
Now
it
it's
work?
on.
Is it good?
Now it's on. It's all right. This one has like different like colors, which I like because I was like,
They
oh, I
have
want
that in
like
The Sims when you
a
buy a ring
warmer
light.
look. See what I mean? Versus like a cooler look.
Mhm.
You know.
So
Anyway.
others, I use
Isn't it
this
undertones?
this $10 desk lamp that has 3 levels of light.
Yeah, my
This
I have
is
a
my
light from
ring
IKEA.
light.
The smelly lamp.
I had a similar desk lamp set up for a long time, and then the bulb. I thought the bulb went out, but I got a new bulb, and the new bulb didn't work. So I was like, I guess this lamp is broken now. Let me get a ring light. Anyway, Ricardo Contreras is also here.
Hi.
Hi, Cado, and joining us, another incredible Hades master, Jason Koebler. Motherboard's Jason Koebler. How you doing, Jason?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
I'm
Always a
excited
pleasure.
because-
This is my once a year appearance on
Once a
Waypoint
year,
Radio.
come on through. You, I know you've been playing a lot of Hades. I know that you are, like Gita, deeply committed to the Hades lifestyle. So I'm excited to have you join us. 2 quick things before we start. The first is really quick, which is there's no episode this coming Monday. Vice is off on Monday. Is this Indigenous Peoples Day? Is that what Monday is? That's awesome. Good. And then second thing, really quick, I do want to shout out another game before we go deep diving into Hades because I had the chance to play a game called The Pathless, which is out on November 12th. I got a little preview with some folks at the studio, and then got a build and got to play that. That is by Giant Squid, who previously did Abzu, which I know a lot of people love. I never got around to Abzu. I lots of people
It's all
tell me
right.
I
It's
would
got a
like
really
it.
good. I think Austin Wintory did the soundtrack for that one. If he didn't,
That makes
you should go listen to
sense.
that podcast that we did with Austin Wintory. It was a good podcast.
That's a good podcast.
That's how
You
I'll
should do that anyway.
save that throw if it ends up being factually incorrect. Yeah, Abzu
I
is
think
like
that's
it's
true.
a very chill, meditative. It's a 2020. If you just want to vibe on a
2020
game,
Abzu.
yeah,
Get you some
it's-
Abzu.
and it's also not a whole lot of mechanics. It's more of like you're just going through sort of
I've heard it described as Journey, but you're underwater.
yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
like
Journey has
vibes.
Journey has like platforming. Journey actually has like
sure,
mechanically a little
sure.
more going on than Abzu does, if
Okay.
I remember correctly.
Right. The Pathless is their follow-up. It's like it also has vibes in that same space, the Abzu Journey space, except it's actually even more. If Journey was like it's like Abzu, but it has some platforming challenges. This has additional challenge elements on top of that. You are a kind of wanderer who has come to one of many adventurers who's come to this island where it seems as if the gods, these kind of big kind of animal spirits, of a sort that you would find through a lot of different kind of myths and belief systems throughout the world, are sick and are being hunted by someone called the God Slayer. and you are rolling through to try to like, cure them and also fight them because they're in like weird demonic form. And all this happens in kind of big open areas that have Zelda style puzzles. And it's kind of like, okay, I'm on this plateau, and this is the plateau where there is the elk god, and the elk god has been corrupted, and the corruption is like seen as this giant red storm that is moving across whatever part of the world you're at. And if you get caught up in it, you get a very scary, like, the god is looking for you in the woods that are all on fire type situation. The gist of the play for me is like there's kind of two modes or two types of interaction, or I guess three. One is that you are, and this is kind of like I think the selling point for this game. You are just like striding through the fucking woods at full sprint, and there are these talismans floating around the woods. And if you lock on to them and shoot them, which is like just done by hitting the right trigger, holding the right trigger, you get a speed boost. And so you were just like Sonic racing through the woods at high speeds, very easily locking on and shooting these kind of floating icons to keep your speed up as you move around.
Because isn't part of I'm remembering part of the pitch being that like it doesn't really have a map or like a direction on where to go. It's just like here's this big space.
Yep.
Use iconography, and
you have a mask. You have like a magic. You have a detective vision that you can put on and be like, okay. Oh look, there's the storm. There's a giant red tower. There is like a light green glow or whatever, and those will help guide you around a little bit. And the thing is very much like in the first area anyway, go solve 3 puzzles. When you solve those puzzles, you get these tokens. You take the tokens to the 3 towers. The towers weaken the demonic god, thing, and then you can go like cure the god by beating it in a classic boss fight where you're hitting weak points and running alongside of it. The movement feels really good. Like that, for me, that's like the whole thing. It's just like it feels so.
That's what's really good about Abzu. Right, like
yes,
moving in
totally.
Abzu felt
right. That makes sense.
Really, really good. And so that's what made me. Like I saw a trailer for this and sort of came away just sort of like on it. Yeah. But that's like movement and momentum. The movement is not so something good. That comes across in a trailer. That's like in the feel of playing. And so I'm glad to hear that translates to like a more mechanically dense experience.
The thing that I'm like, my like little caveat on this is, and then you get to a puzzle and you slow down and then you go to solve a puzzle. And like the puzzles are fine. The puzzles are like, okay, so you have a little falcon buddy. Okay, best part of the game is you can pet your falcon buddy or your eagle buddy. Yeah. And when you get caught up in the storm,
but how do you pet? Is it a direct like pet button?
Okay. It is. You hit X to bring up the eagle, and then you use the right stick to clean its wings and pet its body.
Okay, good.
And if you get caught in the storm, like the firestorm, it gets ash all over it. And so when you get out,
oh no!
First of all, you have to rescue the eagle buddy to get out because it'll pull you out of the storm, but only after you get to it. And it's like wounded on the ground and hurt and crying. And so you get to it, it yanks you out of the storm, and then it's all covered in soot and cinder, and you have to like wipe it down. And it's like 1-to-1. What's 1-to-1 eagle wiping? You're really getting in there and getting your wipe on. It's that part's great. The puzzles are like very much like, all right, you can send your eagle to go pick up this heavy weight to put on this weighted button so that you can push this button down, which will raise up a thing that you can then shoot an arrow through and then unlock the gate. And it's all, it's that style of puzzle. And that style of puzzle can be really fun. I've been playing a lot of Genshin Impact, and that game is filled with that style of puzzle. Mm-hmm. So it's fine, but it's like, it's such a dramatic halt to the momentum that you have moving around the world that it can sometimes feel jarring. But whatever. I think that it has been really cool so far. I'm excited to see what these other like big kind of cursed gods look like. The first boss fight against this cursed elk is sick, so if that's any sign to go on, I'm excited for it. And it's out in like a month, so one more thing to look forward to for me this fall. So that's the Pathless. I hope people give that a look in a month. All right, that's all my business is out of the way. Now it's time to fucking talk about Hades.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna split this up into 2 parts. I think we'll take a break in a little bit, and after that we can go ham on story spoilers and stuff like that. But up top, I just kind of want to throw the ball in the air and go around the table and see where people are at with their Hades experience. I know we've all been playing for a little while. I know, Gita, you've been playing since early access, right?
Yeah, I played the game when it first came out in early access because I was just like, new Supergiant game, like I need this food. And then I lost interest quickly, like I do in a lot of early access games. Usually in the state that games come out when they are just out early access, it really is like, here's the bare bones of this game that we could get it working, and you see the limits of it very quickly. And I was like, I'm going to give it a minute. And then I didn't think about the Epic launcher for like a year after that. And then when I got back into it, it was actually our friend Dante Douglas, who is great. I think he's written for everybody, honestly. He's a lovely guy. He played some Hades for a live stream that we did, a charity live stream we did for mutual aid organizations that was originally going to be a Bernie Sanders live stream, but then Bernie dropped out, and then we pivoted to just having people donate to their mutual aid, which was something that Bernie Sanders was already doing. So we figured might as well ask for the same, do the same ask. And I watched him play, and I was like, this game is really different, and it seems really like he's having a lot of fun. I want to try it. And so I opened up the Epic launcher again, and I was like, oh, fuck, they added like a whole game to this game. This game is a game now. And I got obsessed immediately. And like, it's just been like that ever since. I was lucky because I was like 2 updates away from the final release. So I didn't have to.
What was there when you, because I didn't touch the early access. Generally, I have too many games to play in general. And so early access, like Baldur's Gate 3 looks great. I'll see you in 18 months.
I'm so waiting on that game.
Like, I'm excited people like it, but it's just like, I haven't played Original Sin 2, so this gives me an excuse to pretend I'm going to play Original Sin 2 for another 18 months. But I'm just curious, like, what was already there when you ducked in early? Like, what was there, like, the pieces that you could play with?
What I remember most about it was the basic gameplay loop was complete, right? And a lot of
they had all 4 areas, like that you could go through.
I didn't end up getting out of Tartarus because I just kind of got bored quickly because it was because also it was like the gameplay loop was complete, but the stuff that I find most satisfying about going through the gameplay loop, aka like getting to talk to the characters and seeing how time progresses as you attempt to escape, that was like in Hades itself, it was a lot of temporary art. A lot of the characters you could tell hadn't really been added into the game. It was the mechanics were also weren't as balanced. I remember there's a mechanic that you'll get after you defeat the final boss that you could just actually access after like not very many runs. Like it was just like one of the things that they had in the beginning of the game. And I remember feeling like this is too much, too fast. I'm still getting used to like what all the controls are. And like how to be good at this game, and if like there's just too much shit happening, and I don't think they had all the weapons yet. Like I don't think they had the gun, which is just like,
which is a big one. Yeah,
Homer was busy still writing that one in.
We should say really quick for people who have not seen any Hades gameplay, which is possible certainly, but who still want to hear us talk about it, that it's a Supergiant game. The folks who made Transistor and Pyre and Bastion. It is a kind of isometric action roguelite in which you are trying to escape from Hades. You are the son of Hades. You get a bunch of different. You start with a weapon like a spear or a shield. You unlock more weapons over time for each run. There's like 6 different weapons at the end of it, and then a lot of Hades is creating builds between your weapon, upgrades for the weapon that you get over the course of play in a session, and then these things called boons, which you get from mostly Olympian gods who are trying to aid you on your quest to escape from Hades by giving you some of their power. And those show up as things like, maybe if you get a blessing from Zeus, it's that when you dash just away from an enemy, a lightning bolt strikes the enemy. And whenever you get these boons, you get to pick from a list of 3 from a pool of all available ones that any given god has. And so it's a lot of like, how could I combo these, the ability from Poseidon and the ability from Zeus together on this run to get a really unique and interesting build. And that's kind of like the blood of the game in my experience anyway. Patrick, you just came to it recently as a Spelunky trader. You wrote about this. We've talked about it on the podcast.
Derek, you publicly forgave me. Wow. The creator of the designer of Spelunky responded to my article that was I teased on Twitter as I'm a trader, explaining why I sort of bounced off Spelunky 2, which I think has something to do with Hades and something to do with Spelunky 2. But he forgave me and said Spelunky 2 will be waiting here for you, like a friendly growing moss when you want to come back to it. So I have my guilt has been removed from me. But yeah, I've been kind of utterly obsessed with Hades for the last couple of weeks. I mechanically find it to be just tremendously satisfying. And then even though I'm less taken by the story, which has less to do with the story as much as just that's just not what I'm here for. Like I find it interesting, and I think it paves a path forward to bring more people into a genre that are often put off by it because they need hooks beyond just I need to get better at the game. And I think Hades establishes a lot of really fascinating ways to implement narrative into a roguelike. And so it's like a curiosity from that perspective, but I just find the just playing it to be really, really good, which, as I've said in the past, I have not always felt about Supergiant Games. I like them for lots of reasons, but like the mechanics of the action are like kind of lower on that totem pole, and it's a lot of everything else that goes into their games. And this one has all of that really good Supergiant stuff of the story, the world, the music, the atmosphere, the art, and then also feels like a Dead Cells level action game, which is like one of the highest compliments I can like give to a game that has sort of a Twitch focus. And for me, the other big thing that's happened for me, just having in the past week, and we can unpack this as we talk about the mechanics, but I finally I haven't beaten the game. I've gotten all the way to like the second form of Hades with like a really unfair build that I'm glad I didn't beat it, because it wouldn't have been satisfying.
You had the next to the win, you would have been
I was like, yo, I'm basically invincible in ways that I don't feel like
Did you have a build that was healing you?
Yeah, it was a healing one.
Yeah, I've had that build and felt the same exact way when I got there.
So I specifically had one where I was healing on attacks. Yep. I had a god ability that made me invulnerable for like 1.5 seconds, and I had a boon that made me take increase my god meter upon taking damage, but so that as I was invulnerable, my god meter was like going back. Like it was a whole thing, and I was just floating
you had a window
through the
of
game.
Invincibility to then heal yourself
basically
over and over anytime you got low. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So now in the last like 8 hours, I've been like then working my way back up, understanding the game more mechanically, and I finally got over not spending this damn Titan blood, which the game, I think, we've talked about on Waypoint Radio. Did we? Yeah, I think we talked about it on Waypoint Radio. We mentioned like I don't think the game fully explains like just start spending it. Don't worry about it too much. And I took the tactic of putting in 1 Titan blood into every time the darkness is attached to a weapon. That's kind of how I pick my run. Is just like because I'm still filling out the mirror. So it's like I'll take the one with the extra darkness, then I'll use Titan blood to unlock the new ability, and then run with it. And I got the fist one with the magnet. And that thing is
that run is up on your. I think that run is up on your YouTube. Yeah.
Yes, it is. So go watch that, and you can see me lose my mind at that new ability. Sorry, Jason, you were.
No, I think the magnet is like my consistently best weapon. And like that is just such a powerful form of that weapon. But
it gives you range on a close impact
really
weapon. It's like for people who
really
haven't
good.
seen it, you're. Normally the fists, like the way you're fighting with the fists is you get like 3 punches and then there's an uppercut. Or you can start with the uppercut and that's your special. And in this instance, your special literally magnetizes enemies towards you so that you can bring them in and then initiate your combo sequence. I don't know why you'd go back to the original fist form. Maybe it gives you a couple more punches, but boy, being able to like Magneto or Scorpion a fool from across the room, or as someone who's across the way, and you can just bash them into a wall over and over again.
Yeah.
It's sick.
It's so good.
Sick. Jason, I know you are. To me, you're the preeminent Enter the Gungeon player in my life.
These are your games.
These are. I've seen you play. I saw you play Enter the Gungeon on Save Point 2018. I think is right.
I think so.
And not just play it. Like, people need to be clear. Like, if you look at me and be like, "Oh, Patrick likes these games, is pretty good at them." Like, Jason is on a different god tier. Like, he's doing full completion, the ultra hard modes. Like the amount of time he put into the Gungeon. When you said you're playing Hades, you're like, "I've already beaten it like 10 times." I was like, "Yeah, of course you have." Of course you have. And I don't mean that to be demeaning as much as just like you are just clearly like these games click for you. in a way that's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, the Switch for me is like a roguelite like console. That's the only thing I play on it at this point. I played like 300 or 400 hours of Enter the Gungeon, which is just like disgusting. But and it's like I really love roguelites and I really like Dead Cells, but it didn't click for me in the way that these like isometric top-down ones do. And I kind of like I left Enter the Gungeon at some point, and I liked Binding of Isaac, and I played a lot of Nuclear Throne as well. But Hades is really like scratching the itch that I had from Enter the Gungeon that I haven't really played much of it in a year. And like the second I picked up this game, I was like, yeah, this is like my new game for at least a while.
This has less randomization than Enter the Gungeon, because Enter the Gungeon shares a lot with like Binding of Isaac, and then the runs can be so radically different. And there's a range in Hades, but I feel like the range in Hades is less than an Enter the Gungeon or a Binding of Isaac, or even maybe I think it's closer maybe to a Dead Cells.
Yeah,
I'm
really so I probably have played like 30 or 40 hours of Hades, and I've beaten it like 7 or 8 times. I think I haven't like hit credits, which Emmanuel has. He's played a lot of it, and I think is very good at it.
He's just a fucking freak, though. Like, we can't judge ourselves based on Emmanuel's progress on anything.
Yeah, but that's to say, like, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm not sick of it at all, but I am curious as to whether I'm going to be able to put in, like, 300, 400 hours into this, because I feel like the randomness in Hades there's not a lot of it. You get the randomness from run to run, but you don't get that many broken runs in my experience so far. And like the one that you were describing earlier is like, you can have cool ones like that, but you'd have runs in like Enter the Gungeon where it's like, you had no chance of winning basically. And then you had other ones where it was like, oh, I can just clear a room in like 4 seconds. And it feels like Hades is a much more consistent game, which I really like. And I think, Patrick, you wrote a really great article about how, the progression in Hades feels very welcoming to newcomers. And I'm not saying that like as someone who's played a ton of roguelites, it feels great to me too. And it's very challenging, and you can clearly like up the challenge level in a lot of different ways.
And that's how I felt, was that it accomplishes a really difficult task of feeling like it's not turning its nose to newcomers that could be interested in the genre or what Hades has to offer, and yet also is satisfying for folks who like, yeah, look, I want you to punch me in the face. Just wind up and just wallop me.
Yeah.
But I think it manages to accomplish that by not being as diverse in terms of like run randomness as a Enter the Gungeon or a Binding of Isaac. I think if it did that, both those games are very popular. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but I think those games are happy to like frustrate players to a degree that it's going to turn them off. Whereas Hades is like a little more interested in getting people up and running. And I could also imagine a scenario where like Hades gets like a giant expansion like a year from now that's just like, all right, now we're putting in a bunch of shit that's going to like really change things up. But I think that balance you're speaking to is part of why it's blown up the way that it has, especially since it hit 1.0.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sorry, go ahead, Gita.
No, I think that for me, I'm like not a person that likes roguelikes at all. I like my emotionally harmful gaming experiences to be about character rather than gameplay, because I like to hurt myself in different ways, to each their own. If I'm gonna get punched in the face by a video game, it's gonna be by a character moment. So and this is for me, like this game, I came to Hades as a game of Supergiant, and for every single time that they've made a genre of game where I just haven't been sure that I would get into it, I've given it a shot, and they've given me the entry point for me to like understand what you get out of this. And by centering like this game around the idea of death and dying and making death not that big of a deal, like I'm more emotionally prepared for what a roguelike is going to be like, where you're just like, you suck a lot and then until you get good. But also it gives me an interesting way to understand what the possibilities of the game are when I do hit sort of a plateau with the content in the game. And I had several moments, like when I was getting good enough at the game to actually escape Tartarus and get to the final boss. At each boss, I would have this moment of, I clearly just need to play this encounter over and over and over again until I memorize exactly what the attacks are and exactly what I need to defend myself from them. And then I found myself being like trying to farm builds. And then I found myself thinking, well, what if I could just spend all of Tartarus farming Athena's boons? So I have like all the most powerful Athena boons. I have Divine Dash, which means every time I dash, that's my favorite when you get to Asphodel, by the way, with all the wizards. You ever get that one room in Asphodel where there's a bunch of wizards that are just throwing projectals at you? And
and if you don't have a good deflect build, it's basically like, cool, the run's over.
I'm done.
Yeah, it's just like, fuck you. Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Whereas if you have like a
Good luck,
shield with
bitch.
deflect, it's just like, donk.
Get fucked.
Donk.
Yeah,
Donk.
one of my favorite runs, moments of just like not being like, well, this is done, is I went into a chaos portal right before that and took a pretty risky chaos boon where it was like every time you use your special, you will take 4 health. And I really needed my special because the next room was that fucking wizard room. And I was just like, I don't know. I don't think I can get through this. And I did make it, but I had like 1 health. And the next room I was done. That was it.
How do we feel about the chaos boons?
I love chaos.
They're
Love 'em.
great.
Are they
Always
worth
take
it
'em
in the
first.
long
Yeah.
run?
They're so good.
I love chaos. I love chaos boons. I love the character of chaos. I love just fucking myself over for a little bit. And like, just because sometimes the benefits are so good, getting like that little bit of extra health to bring you up to 300 when you really need it is like, it's worth a lot of the penalties for me. And I find I can usually, when I've built my build correctly, when I've farmed it or just have a funny enough idea for a build, I can pick a chaos boon that is not so detrimental. So like, if my build isn't based on the cast thing, I'll use the thing that makes me like, you know, oh, it's 11 seconds to pick up a cast. I'm not fucking using that. That's fine.
It's
or
fine,
if I'm using a particular weapon where you don't need the attack, or if you can just special your way through several encounters with a particular weapon. The fists, I know you can just uppercut your way, especially if you have the magnetic cutter, through like just a bunch of encounters. Like, oh, the lose health on attack isn't that big of a deal. I can do that. I can do that. It's good.
Hey, can I just get this
Finish thought.
cursed? Can I get this cursed thought out of my head? Oh, you finish your thought.
Yeah,
and then
we'll
I can get
go
my cursed thought
Gita,
out.
Patrick, then come to me.
Gita, I just need to get this cursed thought out. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I'm very interested in your curse thought. But I think, just for someone who's not a roguelike fan, it introduces me to the ways that games that are more complex than this, how they could be satisfying. And so I found myself actually becoming interested in like, what if I played Spelunky 2? Now that I know that like death in these games is not a big deal and it's all about challenging myself. What if I tried something more complex? I'm happy right now with Hades, but that's like a fun new thing for me. Like knowing how I can like roguelike games. And that's something that Hades gave to me. So
Patrick, cursed thought.
please.
You keep saying the word build, and so then I just keep in my mind thinking at some point there's going to be some sort of like Biden Pete Buttigieg stream where it's like build back better, and they're going to play Hades, and they're going to be
Build
talking
back
about
better.
their builds, and just I'm sorry, now I put it into the world.
This
It
is
might
very
happen.
broken brain.
But I had to say it, or else I was just gonna.
Well, that's
I was going
what
to tweet it, and I just had. I'd rather put it out here.
What boons would they
This
take?
is, I don't know. We cannot go. I cannot.
Please,
I do
want
think
all
that the
Aries.
construction.
Send us on Twitter your
All
boon
Aries run?
suggestions
Oh my God.
for the presidential candidates.
Pete, it's the Pete Buttigieg. Have you seen the Pete Buttigieg podcast studio image yet?
No.
Have you seen?
No.
Oh no!
No,
You
what?
haven't seen what his podcasting space looks like?
I have not.
God.
No, I'm gonna look for it. But here, I'm gonna look for it. While I look for it, I'm gonna set up the next conversation, which
All right, please.
is we're talking a lot about builds. We're talking about building it back better. Cado, I know you've been playing a lot. And I'm curious. Let's go around and talk about what our favorite builds are. Cado,
Oh god.
if you could have one build right now, if you want to play this game, what does that build look like?
shit.
What's your fave?
My one Ares on cast is fucking killer. It throws out that disc that deals damage over time, where you just kind of like slowly move through the space. The big old like
whirlwind.
yeah, the
of
fucking
blood
destructo
and
disc.
knives. Yeah.
I love the Poseidon dash that does pushback and damage, specifically the one
Yes.
where you upgrade
Yes.
that and that does damage over time to whatever you've hit with it. And then there's another boon that does damage that does like I forget how like a ton of bonus damage if you knock someone into a wall. So like I've gotten this build a couple different times where I'm just dash and like extra dashes when you can get them from Hermes. So like, I'm just dashing around the space and like trying to knock everyone into as many objects as I can and like, you know, attacking when I need to, but like it's a lot about like kind of controlling the space, like moving the enemies to like a position where I'm in less danger because I've like moved them all to one side and like killed a few on the way just like through knocking them into shit. Those sort of moments have been really fun with me, specifically with the spear too, because I love throwing that spear around, and the fact that you can
spear is so good.
You can like basically stun lock certain enemies by throwing it and like immediately taking it back, and then you get the fucking backstab damage on the way back. It's so love it.
Yeah, totally. Jason, one build to rule them all. What is it? What is yours?
Yeah, I've been a huge fan of the Dionysus builds lately, the Hangover stuff, which I had been like reticent to grab for the first 10 runs that I did, because I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go for like straight power. But Hangover is like really great. Sorry. I think the more you can just like punch Hangover into an enemy, the better. So I really like a special or an attack that gives Hangover. And the other thing I really like is going for money builds. I've found that like saving your money till the end, if you can, other than buying some like health here and there as you need, has been like really helpful for me. So like if I can get, Hermes has a build where you like get 10 coins every time you go into a new chamber, which is cool. And then the last thing is I really love Demeter's casts, where you just like drop the cast and it shoots like lasers at people, which is really cool.
They home in on people too when I didn't realize that when I first got it. I was like, well, what's the point of me setting up a laser that shoots north? And it's like, oh no, it tracks people. And
yeah, it's so badass. You like
time.
drop it and then you can like go to another part and it's like, oh yeah, this thing is just like fucking up all the enemies and I can like go fight elsewhere. It's almost like having a companion or something. Or you can also drop them and then like hide behind something and just like chill, read the news or whatever while these cast lasers are just like fucking up a room. So that's what I'm into right now.
That sounds great. Patrick.
Yeah.
I've honestly have not.
You're still in that phase. You're still in the
I feel like
learning.
because now that I've started to use Titan Blood on the weapons, where there are weapons where I didn't care, like I didn't care for the bow and arrow that much. Like I had a couple of successful runs with the bow and arrow, but I never found this the default special for the bow and arrow, which is just like a spread. It didn't
successful in what way?
Put Hangover.
No, I haven't beaten the game.
Right.
I mean,
like
what
I mean, like
That's
what does
very
success
rude,
mean?
Cado.
All right, fucking chill.
I'm being serious. I think this is really interesting. Like, what do we call a success in a run? Is it you've gotten to a new area, or is it like you've unlocked a certain?
No, because I
me,
regularly
like,
make it to the end to the third boss, and so like I'm getting very close to the end game. That's where like I'm still figuring out the dynamics of those two
That boss
enemies.
is rough.
Fuck these.
Yeah, that boss is hard,
That
but I think
sucks.
it's like a necessary check on you to before you get to the end. So usually like a successful run for me is like trying a different build, like trying a different weapon, and like finding a reason I like it. And the first upgrade you get on the bow and arrow is rather than having this spray that like is just, there aren't that many times where like spraying a bunch of weak arrows does a whole lot. But the first upgrade you get, if you do a normal attack with an arrow, your special is like 3 really powerful like homing arrows that then like zoom in on someone. Like that's like a way different way of like playing that weapon type. And so I really like the fists. I will say in general, like the fist and the spear are the two that I get excited about when like the darkness attaches to them, and I'm like, cool, all right, this is going to be a run. I'm going to use these weapons, especially like the spear when you can get the like extra distance on it, where you can basically be like, it feels like across the room, and you can still sort of like when you get to the
It's the bitch you thought upgrade, with the spear when you get the extra distance on it.
Yeah, well, when you get to the second boss and like you're trying to fight this big skeleton dino thing, and it's like I can just sit way out, like it can't hit me, like all of its area of effect attacks are like not even close to me because the spear can just tap away at it. So I'm excited to use the guns. My guess is I will end up liking the guns quite a bit, but I only did one run with them, and
I fucking love the adamant rail, I love that gun.
Tell me about the adamant rail. Tell me what is your adamant rail build? The adamant rail is the gun, which surprised me when I unlocked. I was like, "Excuse me,
it's canon, right?" I mean,
wanting so badly for someone else in the
strapped
podcast.
Up? What? Yeah.
I remember when I got the gun, wanting so badly for someone else in the podcast to play this game, so I could just be like, they put a gun in this game.
They gave him a fucking gun.
They gave him a gun. Hades,
do what you want with lore, baby.
Yeah, I guess so. Fuck it. Why not? Why not?
Ares has some great voice lines if you meet him while you're using the gun. But I'm in the state of playing Hades. I beat the final boss. I haven't seen credits, but I'm working up to that, and I'm really just at the place where I'm like, I want to see everything. I want to see all the lore that they have because I'm invested in this. And all I do is stupid builds. So now I do builds that are just based on what two Greek gods that I have available to me hate each other the most. And what would happen, what would happen if I did a pure Aphrodite and Ares build? With their tumultuous love affair, because they're connected, so they're lovers in Greek mythology. Or what if I did just Poseidon and Zeus, as much as I can, just those two? Or Zeus and Demeter, actually, I've been very, very interesting, and they
I bet that
fucking
works well.
hate each other.
Yeah. But I bet those abilities are fun together.
Yeah. It's really fun to get the chain lightning and then her God Gauge move, which is just a big polar vortex. So just everyone in the room gets wiped, essentially.
Yeah.
It's really, really nice. You can corral people into your area effect attack, essentially, by using the lightning to weaken them and then push them into, or anything with knock away also. Poseidon and Demeter is also pretty good. But the reason why I like the gun is that it just allows you to spray all your status effects on every single person in the room. You don't even have to kill things with a gun. Gun with a Dionysus build. I mean, truly my favorite build is Dionysus and Demeter. I think my favorite boons overall are Artemis's boons, weirdly enough. I didn't think this was going to be true for me.
I can't make her work for me, and I love her as a character. She fucking rules.
Yeah,
so tell me what I need to know about making the Artemis build work.
Go look in her boons and figure out what prerequisites you need to get the boon that will allow you to mark enemies when you've done critical damage, because that will significantly increase the amount of damage you do. And just if you spend like Tartarus essentially just chasing after her boons, farming them, and getting as many criticals, like stacking on attack and special as you possibly can, plus the homing arrow for your Titan, for your blood. Your cast. Homing arrow for the cast I've found to be really essential, especially in rooms where I just can't find that last enemy, because at least will point me in the right direction. And it's great for the third boss too, because you can just be spamming attack and then right click, and it'll just go and hit one of those two guys while they're wailing on you. It's good for anything in any room where you need to take care of an enemy, but there's someone else coming towards you and you need to create distance at the very least. And I found, just having her to supplement my cast or my God Gauge is great, but I really like it when I can get that thing that allows you to mark enemies, because you will do a lot more damage on enemies that are marked, and if you have a higher chance of critical damage, you can just one-shot things. So that plus any kind of status effect is just really, really just you clear room. I'm at the point where I can reach the final boss of Hades in under half an hour. So I've really just tried to think about of the efficiency of certain combinations, and she just makes everything a lot faster.
I need you to know that you just told me something I didn't know, but should have at least intuited, which is that there are prerequisites for certain boons, which I did not know because I've never looked them up. I was very much like, I'm just not going to ever look anything up. And now you're like, make sure you look up what the prerequisites are. And I did. And I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Weebay gif looking around like, oh, shit. Damn, I didn't know. I didn't know. Well, that's something. That's something I should internalize and probably look at a wiki about.
Well, they just added that aspect to the codex in game with the 1.0 update. So,
okay,
how
I've
would
just
you
never
know?
opened that screen. Well, I mean, I've played 1.0. I just haven't opened that particular screen, which I will say there's other stuff that I didn't know about until other people talked about. So one was the Titan Blood thing. I definitely had Titan Blood in my inventory, and Skelly did say I could spend it at one point, but I didn't know how, and it took me way too long to figure out to go to the weapon I'd already equipped, to go to like its place in the weapon gallery to go upgrade it. The other one I didn't know until friend of the site Will Smith, not that Will Smith, told us.
It'd be sick if it was that Will Smith, though.
It would be sick if it was that Will Smith.
You know what? I think about that
just
constantly.
like, you know, like Titan's
it could
blood,
just be
you
the
really
other
need to
Will
spend
It
Smith.
was just the other Will Smith who we like
we
played
could Jaden
PUBG
on
with
this,
sometimes.
though? I bet we could.
I bet we could.
We got a history with him, so.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
come on, it would be Jaden. It would not be. It would not be. Will.
I think Jaden's still mad at me. The thing that I didn't know about until way too late is that there's other things you can buy with darkness on that mirror. Each of those things flips, and there's a second
Yep. That took me
mirror
a while, too.
upgrade. Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude.
How?
Took me a fucking. There's little, you know, that
There's
that
a little button on the
square
left.
There's a little button on the
that
left.
has two
What the
arrows.
fuck, game?
I
Yeah.
swear to God,
And
dude.
some of them,
tells you, doesn't it?
Okay, I've been using Death Defiance, which is the one that gives you a certain number
Yes.
of lives.
Right.
The other one is so much fucking better. Once per
What is it?
room, it only gives you 30% health back, but once per room, it refreshes. So you have infinite lives, potentially, if you can, you know, manage not to die. It's just like, it really, it allowed me to beat the final boss, I swear to God.
I believe you. So
Gita,
yeah,
that
so Patrick,
sounded so
on
deep. Infinite
Yeah.
lives as long as you manage not to die. Just something to think about.
something
Applies to real life, too.
That's right.
Damn.
Sit with that. So you see a little icon on the left, Patrick? If you click on that, it switches to a different ability.
If the game pointed it out, it didn't do a good enough job.
with you.
I'm just
I'm
saying,
with you.
I
like,
will find.
we do this for a living. I feel like I should be able to figure out the UI element of like a major part of a mechanic of the game.
Yeah.
At
This
that
is
point,
something you
that's on
brought
the
up
game.
earlier, though, and that I keep coming back to. It's like the game does a really good job of holding your hand and making you come back. And I think I can see it as an entry point for a lot of roguelites. But at the same time, it's like, what the fuck do I spend my shit on? And it makes it seem like all of the resources are very precious to the point where I'm scared to spend them. It's like I have like 15 Titan's Bloods right now, and it's like I don't want to waste that shit. It's
No,
like,
you gotta.
15 is a lot. You spend that 15. Spend that 15.
well, what if I need them? You know, because it's like, you know, you look at this,
This is not like
screenshot
the
you
last
sent. It's
Phoenix
like
Down in Final Fantasy. Okay,
Yeah.
spend that.
But the
shit.
game, I don't think the game makes that clear enough, though.
Yeah.
I don't think the game makes it clear that you should just be like, and maybe part of that is because you, at a certain point, you stop getting Titan Blood if you're not beating the game, right? Like you're capped on what you can acquire once you beat a boss. Once you don't get Titan Blood with that weapon anymore, you can get a diamond, and then after you get the diamond, then you can only get like a giant darkness drop or ambrosia or something like that. But I am with Jason that I think the game could be more. If it notices like 5 runs that you haven't spent any Titan Blood, like the game should like sit you down and be like, hey, so you're gonna get more of this later. These weapons get more fun if you use them. Because I started hitting a cap on like, I could feel myself scratching at like a interest cap before I finally used the Titan Blood, where I was like, cool, am I just now waiting for the one run where all the boons click? And I was like, oh no, actually, mechanically, these weapons are different enough that I'm going to be able to cater to my skill set better by using these different weapon setups. But I had to have someone in a Discord tell me to do that as opposed to the game. But I wonder if maybe some of that is like an early access thing where it's like you have thousands and thousands of people that become so ingrained in your game that it can be possible to overlook some UI elements that for a newcomer, I'm not saying that's what happened. Stuff like this happens in games all the time, but I do wonder, this being Supergiant's first early access game, that there are enough of these moments where it feels like for a newcomer, the game just sort of like skips a beat that wouldn't happen when like a patch drops and it's like, we added this brand new thing. Go fucking check it out.
I have the benefit of living with someone who can just be my noob test whenever I'm trying to figure out what a game is like for people who don't play games regularly but understand what a video game is. I got Hades for David. David, my boyfriend, in case you've never listened to this podcast before and don't know who David is, he actually bought, he's my boyfriend. We live together, me and my cat. He dates both of us.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a beautiful family. He bought the Hades soundtrack on Bandcamp Day and just played it, and it was like, yeah, I bet this sounds familiar, doesn't it? So I just played that game all day long. So I got it for him on Switch, and he did like 2 runs and put it away. And I was like, so what do you think of the game? What about the boons? And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh, this game doesn't tell you shit.
Doesn't tell you shit.
This game doesn't tell you fucking shit.
Yeah.
I have to sit down while he's playing and be like, you want the centaur heart. That deadless hammer is important to get. You gotta get that. And like this is where you spend your cash, because it just doesn't tell you.
Some of that's part of the genre though, right? So I think that's where like which Hades is bumping up against and is trying to unpack and approach in different ways. Where like part of we've had like this. What is a Souls game? Where like often part of a roguelike or a roguelite is a sense of mystery of how the mechanics work. How do items work? How do systems interact with one
I got
another?
this gray potion. What's it fucking do? Is like
right, and the notion of and the notion of doing tons of runs is unpacking that. And part of for roguelikes that don't have permanent progression mechanics, right? Hades does, right? That's often roguelites. That is often like the singular, like if you can pinpoint like a major difference between a roguelike and a roguelite, it is often, you can increase your health or other upgrades permanently over time. And you can do that in Hades. And because in a roguelike, like a Spelunky, it's all just ingrained institutional knowledge of the world and systems. That is what you're building. It is not upgraded health. And that mystery is kind of core in a lot of the ways to how the genre has been conceived, but then you see, as Gita is pointing out, and in smaller ways, maybe with Austin and I, is where you expect the game to explain a lot of things, and then when it doesn't, then you're frustrated over what it hasn't explained, and that's an interesting tension that this game, by trying to be more appealing, runs into, that you might not hold against like a more traditional roguelike where, of course,
that expectation is shit. Right. The thing that's interesting to me is where it withholds information and where it gives it. So for instance, the first time that you see, I was just watched you play that run that's on your YouTube channel, Patrick, last night. And there's a point where you see the exclamation point with the kind of sparklies around it. You're like, what's this next door do? Because for people who don't know, at the end of a room, after you kill the enemies, you have a choice to make normally about what room to go into next. And the only clue that you have is an icon. And it doesn't explain those icons to you. You have to learn those icons over time. You have to learn, okay, the bag with the thing on it is a shop to go in and buy stuff. Whereas the coin is a place where I can make a bunch of money. Whereas the exclamation point is like an NPC encounter or whatever. And so there, it's like very much like they don't want to tell you. They could say, this is a room where you're going to meet Zeus before you've met Zeus for the first time, but instead it's a lightning bolt. You're like, is that like
you
a
could
Zeus
just
thing?
you could hold a button that's like where it explains other things, and it could say like, hey, by the way, this icon means this god, which means these types of abilities are what you could expect.
Totally. But then on the other hand, in between runs, I was talking to my friend Wes, Cool Ranch Zaku on Twitter, nice. And he pointed out that let's say you die to Megara, immediately Hypnos is like, oh yeah, you gotta be careful with that whip, buddy. Like the whip is bad. Then you talk to Achilles, and Achilles is like, hey, make sure you think about ranges. Like I in my time, I've thought a lot about distance and spacing, like very, very like theory, right? And then Hades is like, spend your fucking coins, you idiot son. Upgrade your base, right? And then Skelly is like specifically like, hey, that weapon's really good for dodging, bud. And that is just like boom, 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 boom. We're gonna cover you on tips from every different direction. And it's almost as if the point at which they want to tell you stuff is when you're not on a run. When you're not on a run, you can get tips, you can check the codex, you can check, look at all your weapons, test your stuff out, look at all your possible boons, look at all your different keepsakes. But the second you're in it, like, play to find out what happens, you're going to fucking make it up as you go along, and you're going to have to rely on the knowledge you already have. And we're not going to tell you that stuff again, except for like the upgrade stuff, which I do think is a problem. I think that they should call that stuff out a little bit better.
Yeah. I didn't even really occur to me how essential, like, it's not even just like the Titan Blood stuff, like getting new weapon forms, new weapon aspects, but like it didn't occur to me how essential Deadless hammers were until very, very late in my gameplay
Me
experience.
either. I only learned this while
really
it was actually the stream that I did for Hades proved to be extremely useful, because I would stop in rooms and be like, all right, so this is what I would do if I was sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
What do people think I should do? And then people would explain things like, oh, like, dude, don't go in the Chaos Gate. You want to take the hammer, because the hammer are quite literally the most important upgrades
it's the
you
most
can
important.
get. And I was like, was it? Is it though? Like, what? It was small details like that. Well, one, that's why I like doing streams or just like playing with people in general. Is I think these games actually they expect you to do this. Like it's almost not a failing of the game. These games are often built around community, and community can mean a lot of different things. It can mean the friends you play it with. It can mean the stream friends we made along the way. Old school call out. Or it could be the Discord you're in, or it's the wiki you're checking, or the message. Like these games do to some degree. They, especially in the age of the internet, like expect you're going to go somewhere, discuss what you've learned. And so it's not like a spoiler for someone to say, hey, the hammers are really important. Prioritize those in your runs because they're going to let you upgrade things. Like that's how you're supposed to get that information. But if you don't have that, like if you're just like, I just downloaded Hades and I'm going to play it.
Yeah.
I can see, I do.
Bro, do you want me to upgrade my spear, or do you want me to talk to Zeus, the god of all Olympians? Like what? Why would I not go talk to Zeus?
Yeah.
And the answer is because making your spear better is actually way more important.
Zeus is kind of a bitch ass anyway. Like,
damn, get his ass. Like it turns out the thing you do all the time, which is hit people with the spear, is the most important thing you can do. Like that is it. And it does take it can take a little bit of work to like recognize that without any help. I definitely don't think I would have either without talking to some other folks about the game.
This is like why I feel a little bit like the jury's still out for me personally on like how long I'm going to play this game. It's like I've enjoyed every second that I've played, but there are these things where it's like always grab the hammer. Like I learned on Reddit, like the palms kind of suck. Like avoid the palms. There's just not really worth it. Like always take a boon. And in Enter the Gungeon and Binding of Isaac and these other games, it's like there is a lot of variety and there's more bosses. Like we'll talk more about the bosses later, I'm sure, but like the bosses are always the same, pretty much.
Yes, they
and then
are. Right.
It's like,
well, except for murder. I hate whenever I get her. I cannot get her.
Oh, the Furies. There's a thing
what's
that happens later that's going to be fun for you to discover. And I will not talk about it until you take a break because it's just going to like make you upset in a way that I hope happens on a stream. So I can watch it.
Like the runs are pretty similar, like from time to time, and the strategy is pretty similar, and it's like the story is keeping me in it, and also the fact that it's still fun and challenging, and the gameplay is so good. But I'm curious. I mean, I paid $20 for the game, and it's been well worth it, and the story like goes on and on and on. But it's like,
I have a question.
Can I play 500 hours of this? I don't know. We'll find out.
Did you beat the final boss?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so you have the Pact of Punishment.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the thing. Before I beat the final boss, I was like, I'm going to do this until I beat the boss. And like, I just checked. I have about 120. I'm currently on my 120th run.
Yeah,
and the Pact of Punishment, some of those things on there. Have you tried extreme measures?
I have, yes.
Yeah,
The
how many extreme measures have you tried? Because it's fucking.
Oh.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting once you see other ways in which they optionally add challenge. I think that playing around with the heat thing, because you start off with one heat, so you can only add one extra hurdle to your run, but then you can go up to at least 10. And I just keep thinking about my 10 heat run and how I will organize the ways that this game is trying to punish me into a situation where it punishes me, but I can still defeat it.
Right. So I've done like 1 and 2 heat, and I'm like, oh, it's not that different. And then I just for fun, I turned it up to 10, and I was like, oh yeah, like I'm not there yet. You know, I didn't get very far.
I do think you've hit something distinct about this game versus an Enter the Gungeon or a Binding of Isaac. Or even a Spelunky, which is that I think the narrativization of the format does mean that they're fine with you not playing it for 200 hours, right? Like there will be a final, you will hit credits, and at that point I think that you were like, all right, I'm done this game, I'm going to put it away on the shelf. And I think that shows in the fact that that's part of why the game is a little more constrained on a run-to-run basis. It's part of why it's so important to focus on the fact that you learn information about stuff over time, that you do get, you do have that slowly increasing floor of how powerful you are. Your keepsakes get more powerful. You get to upgrade stuff through the mirror, all that stuff, is because unlike Gungeon, unlike Binding of Isaac, they want you to be done this in 50 hours or 30 hours or whatever, and be able to be like, all right, cool, I'm done. I'm not going to stick around and keep going down this road. and I feel fulfilled, and that's okay because that's the sort of game this is compared to those other ones, which I think is an interesting decision, and it's a very Supergiant decision.
Yeah, I feel like this is a game where you might hit like a certain number of hours and then stop playing, but it doesn't make it a bad like. It's interesting that it's straddling this line with a genre of game that has such a reputation for being so hardcore and like not for people, like for very intense people, like very intense games. Because I do think just by the way that it is designed, this game has to have an ending. Something like Zagreus has to do something. He has a goal that he wants to achieve, and he has to either achieve it or not. So you will hit an endpoint, but I feel different from both Patrick and Jason that I don't know whether or not that will be the end for me. Like, I just enjoy fucking around with the limitations of the game so much right now. I like that I understand the confines of it, so I can break it in certain ways when I'm playing it. You know, like I like finding.
This is the joy of you playing Hades because it's your first one of these, right?
Yeah.
Like you're like baby Gita playing her first
little baby Gita
roguelike. Like, but I mean, this is sort of, you know, where Jason can like fully articulate. This is kind of the roguelikes I like. This is like the possibility space that I want to be in.
Yeah,
and he can like Hades, but also realize the limitations of how much time he can put into it because it's he will hit his cap on his interest in it, and like you're still figuring out what that possibility space is. And maybe you'll put Hades down and go, fuck these other games, like I just fuck with what Supergiant does, and this was my one time into this world, which is cool in and of itself because I love games that can give you a glimpse of why people like things that you don't like, which
too.
is very rare for games to be able to pull people in. And it may be that it doesn't unlock the genre for you, but it lets you see like, oh, I get why Patrick or Jason, when they spend 100 hours in one of these games, like why they get so into it. Like Hades gives me a glimpse into to what that feeling is like. But it's also because you're so early into playing this type of genre, like you're just figuring out what your likes and dislikes are within the genre itself through the prism of Hades, which is really cool.
Yeah, that said, it's like this game is so polished. It's like you'll play the other ones, and it's like the story in Hades is just like. It's incredible. Like the story.
It's going to be a disappointment in certain regards, no matter where you go from here.
A little bit of jank. Yeah. I mean, my favorite thing right now in Hades is just seeing how many area of attack, like how much damage I can output, like just by being in a room, essentially. Just like how many status effects I can put on an enemy just by touching it one time. Like that is my favorite thing right now.
I love those rooms that are just like survive for 45 seconds. Like I'm not going to survive. I'm going to thrive. I'm going to make a lot of, I'm going to get rich. I'm going to kill so many of these motherfuckers. I can do this all day. Like versus
I have full health, but I'm going to open this chest and get me 100 more HP just to fuck around a little bit.
Versus there are definitely some mini bosses where I'm in a room and I'm like, man, fuck this. The butterfly orb.
Medusa, the one where you've got the stone coming down. Actually, I find the mini bosses to drive me up a wall far more, and I guess they're supposed to because whereas in a lot of roguelikes, you're getting randomized bosses from a pool. This game is static on the bosses with some variations.
Basically,
But you're getting like pretty similar boss types on each run. But then the mini bosses, they're ones where you get
the wizard room is officially a mini boss, and that's my least favorite room in the entire game.
I agree with you.
I
agree
with
that
room.
Tough.
I didn't sign up for a bullet hell game. I'm just trying roguelikes, okay?
Well, the game comments on it, right? Like it's one of the few rooms where your character will go like, wizards. It's like not a lot bothers him. Like he's a pretty chill dude for being like the son of Hades, but then like a room of wizards and he's like, even I'm irritated by these wizards.
That I also hate the giant crystal that has little crystals that come off of it and that shoot lasers in a big matrix. I hate that room very much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun when you get a deflect thing.
Oh,
right?
that's the
then you that's or if you have the shield or you have an Athena boon that can deflect it. That's
the Athena special where you just throw out the phalanx of shields and it's like do. I love it. Love it in there.
I love that. I also love chain lightning in that room because
chain lightning. I didn't mention that's probably my favorite build just because it's fun to see shit connect and blow up over and over again.
It's so sick to
Chain
send out a
lightning on
cast and hit like 10 people, and it's like,
Yes,
I like went into that wizard room with chain lightning, like a pretty overpowered build, and I beat it in like 5 seconds, and then I got in it last night with something like way worse, and I was like, oh, I'm dead.
Oh, this sucks actually. Yeah. Of the bosses, and I guess here's the thing: is like we're still in the pre-spoiler, like pre-twist spoiler stuff. So let's be careful here. But I guess I'm curious of the main bosses that you hit in your I guess first, let's say 20 runs, assuming you haven't beaten the game as a savant in the first 5 or whatever. Is there any? Who do people like in terms of bosses?
Okay, favorite boss actually has ended up being the Hydra, even though it really kicked my ass. Like the first maybe 10 times I hit the Hydra, I was like, this is the end of my run, just gonna have fun, just here to have fun. But I've just like gotten so good at systematically destroying that thing. It's become a real joy to show up. I really got the damage phases down. Like, it feels good.
Yeah, I love having an AoE that can hit 2 of the little boneheads at once in that phase. So yeah, come at me, get as close as you can. Bop, 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 bop. That's
when I really like having the gun, and especially putting Hangover either on the special or on the main attack on the gun. The special on the gun is a giant bomb. So I love doing Hangover on the bomb, hit at least one, you can get 2 if you can coax them into attacking you twice at once.
Right.
Hit them on the bomb. Also stand in the explosion with the second gun upgrade so that you become empowered. So the next time you attack, you are just much more powerful. Hit those with a Hangover and then run across the screen so you can just get everyone else, and they'll be gone by the time you get back there. It's just fun to watch. I'm also at the point, it's very cute. Eventually, Zagreus gives the Hydra a nickname. And when the Hydra is like announced on the screen, it will say the nickname for the Hydra also. So now it's just like, oh, hey, buddy.
That's good.
Nice to see ya.
That's very good.
I have a definite opinion for least favorite boss, but I want to hear what everyone's favorites are also.
Cado.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead,
Jason.
Cado.
Yeah, Cado, then Jason.
I haven't gotten very far, so I have only a pool of like 3, but I think actually there's something like really satisfying about the like progression of understanding Meg, which is the first boss. Because especially early on, she just seemed like, I was like, oh great, I'm never gonna beat this. What are you talking about? And it also has that thing of being, like you're kind of fighting someone that's like a similar size and like has similar movements to what you're doing, the dashing around, like and just like learning. It's one of those. It's one of those that has. I mean, most of the bosses have this. The learning the pattern of when the dashes are coming. It was really satisfying because, so like we were talking about the bomb has kind of an arc and like it hits after a few seconds, but I learned the patterns of Meg to the point where I could pre-fire a bomb and it would land as she arrives after dashing, right? Like that sort of mastery was really, really fun. And because she's the first one, you kind of will inevitably get there with her because you're going to reach her as many times as like more times than the later ones, right? So yeah, I think that's my favorite. So
Meg is really a really fun fight, especially because of what you were saying about it's the first enemy you see that is similar to you in any way, and you just have to relearn how to play the game for a sec the first time you run into her. Yeah, because you're just like, oh, she has the same abilities that I do in a limited sense, so I need to figure out what to do with an enemy that can dash away from my attacks, for instance, or do AOE stuff, or like fire bullets at you, which is so annoying when she spams that. But I also really like that she just is a bitch to you the entire time. She wants you to die so bad. I love it. Yeah, one of my favorite things about Pyre, the game that Supergiant did right before this one, is that they had a narrator in that game that when it would do dynamic narration, which was like the big calling card of Bastion as well, was a dynamic narration. And the narrator in Pyre just hated your guts and was rooting for you to fail the entire way. And I just really like when they do that to you.
There's a narrator in Hades too, but like very rarely, like, and
Yeah.
only in like
He might be
Hades
Homer
Underworld.
also.
It's
He's
very
in the
Keeps calling
opening-
him old man. So
Uh-huh.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no, I read on a wiki that if you can get a bust of an ancient poet, that's definitely Homer, and if you read a description, the narrator will say something not snarky for the first time.
Perfect. Good. I definitely I have to take this moment to shout out my most and least favorite boss, which is Theseus, who, as I noted, fuck to Theseus, honestly. Classic Homeric quote, fuck to Theseus. Is Kurt Angle, the professional wrestler who is like an all-American heel at his best, who is just like, you know, we're going to create the slickest, most like shining, grinning smile hero and make you fucking hate him. That's Theseus. The fact that
Theseus is like a never Trumper Republican who actually does vote for Trump, like on the sly.
On the sly, 100%. 100%. The fact that you,
It's like Eric Erickson.
The fact that you first meet him, the fact that you meet Asterius first. Asterius is a Minotaur, and for me at least,
I love Asterius.
I met Asterius twice before I got to the boss fight that is him and Theseus, and I was like, you know what, me and Asterius are tight. And then to walk into that fucking arena and be like, you're hanging with this motherfucker, Asterius? You can roll with me, you're rolling with him? This guy is heartbreaking to me. And he is just the most like the end of the Theseus fights where he gets to, and this is a mechanical spoiler, he gets to call on a sort of power that no one else in the game gets to call on.
First time this happened to me, man.
And I was like, for real? Okay, all right, two can play at that game. Let's go. And I beat him the first time. I beat him the first time with by countering him with the same sort of thing. I felt so powerful and good, and he has not let me live it down since. I lose 8 out of 10 fights, 4 out of 5 fights with Theseus still, and it's heartbreaking. He is the breaking point for me. I can beat Asterius every time on that 2-on-1 fight. I have him down to a science, but that final stage of Theseus takes me out, and it's so upsetting to me.
I'm now finally at the point where I can reliably beat Theseus and Asterius. But like every time you got to that final stage where you get him down to half health, it's like the most powerful thing that happens in that boss encounter, and it happens at half health, which is like the one thing that like makes me feel absolutely so insane, because after you get over that phase, he still has so much health left, and he still will just hit you with that spear over and over. And he also like has a shield, so it blocks most of your damage, and he won't stop heckling you, and it just is infuriating. I fucking hate Theseus so much.
This is another beef I have with the game, which is like I'll just quickly go through the bosses, but it's like the Hydra for me is like a clown baby boss. It's like I barely get hit on the Hydra, and I mean after a few times, it's like he's very easy, like very easy. But I find like
of that boss fight are very easy to predict. Yeah,
I find like Meg and the Fates to be like very interesting and pretty hard, like among the hardest in the game. And then like Theseus is just like so much harder than Hydra. Like there's no real like progression there that makes any sense. Like Theseus, in my opinion, is the hardest boss in the game, and it's just like even when you beat him, it's a slog because he blocks fucking everything. Like you're spending most of the time dodging his fucking arrow. Like it's just, I mean, I hate that motherfucker, like you said, Austin.
I definitely get into modes where I'm like, I'm gonna build to beat Theseus. That's what my build is this time. I'm going to build to like get around his shield, to be able to put damage on him over time so that he can't block that shit. If he's poisoned.
This is like building in the NFL. They got to beat the Chiefs, or in the NBA, you got to beat the Warriors. Like it doesn't.
But then there's
everyone
shit
else
after him, and that's
doesn't
the problem.
matter.
That's the thing that happens is you built to beat Theseus, but then there's game after Theseus, and then it's like, well, okay, well,
see, this is where
this build's fine, but.
Yeah,
Gita.
this is where you need Artemis. Actually, Artemis has helped me with these a lot.
Okay.
Because crit damage, just a higher chance of crit damage, you hit so much harder.
Right.
And
So
if you get
you're
the
hitting less
marked
often,
thing,
right? Sure.
Yeah, if you get the marked thing, you can focus on Asterius for a minute and then, hit him with crit damage, and then Thesis would get marked because there's no other enemies in the room. So then the next time you hit him, he gets a huge chunk of his health down. So it's, for him, it's like always a game of attrition, like trying to get in and out close to him, get behind him, get homing attacks, get chain lightning, anything where you can hit someone else where it hit Asterius for more damage, but also be chipping away.
Right.
And that becomes especially really essential when he calls in the power of the gods, because like the first time that happened to me, I like literally my brain was like, it was Artemis who I had given so much nectar to, and I was like, bitch, I thought we were good. I thought we were good.
Betrayed.
I felt
So are we
I was
all
so mad.
killing Asterius first?
Yes,
like
every
basically
time.
Just,
Yeah.
And I feel so bad about
It's
it.
Ornstein and
like,
Smo, and like you're gonna get rid of Smo every time and then fight. Or I guess that's not true. You get rid of Ornstein first in that
Yeah.
fight, don't you? So
Yeah.
maybe we should all try to get rid of Theseus first and see what happens.
I've gotten rid of Theseus first by accident when I've like gotten a hangover effect on him, but
Yeah.
that's like, never on purpose.
Does Asterius have like a rage mode, like an end of fight, like wilding out?
Yeah, he starts doing chasing you around like a lot. He'll spam that attack where he chases you around and you have to get him to hit a
don't mind
wall
that.
or one of the statues.
Yeah.
And he will also, the thing where he jumps across the arena and slams his hammer down.
Okay.
He'll do that 3 times in a row after he hits half health.
Okay.
It's easier to avoid. And again, like another
Yeah.
White Run if you have deflect, but it's still like it's so annoying when you're trying to just like not get hit by a bunch of like lightning that Theseus has summoned, and this fucking bull is running after you.
Yeah.
Just like, get away from me, shut up.
Yeah. The Hermes ones are so good for that fight, though. Like any extra dashes or speed you can have, like it's just.
Those are the
good
sorts
at
of things
getting
I
in
was
and out.
I was picking for that build, and it's like I don't love Hermes that much as in terms of upgrades, but in that fight they're so good.
You get the dash where after you dash, you become 100% faster and sturdy for like 10 seconds. That is so
It's
great.
very useful.
It's just like you're ice skating away from whatever he's trying to do to you. It's lovely.
All right, I feel like we should take a break and switch over to spoiler story stuff, which I'll be honest is kind of breaking my heart because now that we've talked about it, I'm like, I don't want to get spoiled on this game, but I signed up for it. So, Patrick, I'll let you go.
I didn't. I'm gonna leave. Also, I
Fucking
don't.
lucky.
I should say, I don't care actually, and that's not to be dismissive of the game's. I just don't. I don't. You can spoil it. For
I'm
me
not
right now.
mad. I'm not.
Fuck them kids.
I'm not. I mean, it's just. But that's. I'll make my
Sound like
concluding
a
point.
tweet.
Yeah.
That
What?
is. I'm not mad.
It's
Yeah,
a drill
that's-
tweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm actually not because I think it speaks to the range of appeal of Hades is that I'm just not here for the story. I think it's interesting. Like I don't mind having something to do when a run finishes and I can go check in with folks. And there are like some subplots that I think are kind of interesting, but it's always just perfunctory. It's like, all right, so I'll do these things and then like let's get the fuck up back out there and go start slaughtering some things. Like that's what I'm here for. It's what these games like Gita doesn't want to feel bad playing these games. I want to feel bad and feel punishment and climb the mountain. Like that's the appeal. Like I don't care about the plot and
Miley
characters and
Cyrus,
souls
the
and
climb
Sekiro and
.mp3 for Patrick Clever.
Exactly. 100%. She's like 16 when she did that song. Very
Yeah,
impressive.
sure was. That's a good song, though.
And so that's what I mean, where it's like the story is fine. Like I'm enjoying it, but it could disappear. Like they could go, actually, we've patched it out, and I'd be like, I still love this game, and like would continue playing it and would want to see it to the quote unquote like credits where the game has said, hey, you're good. You can put this down now and go do something else with your time.
The very
but
last thing
I'm
I'll say
curious to-
before we switch is like just to close the loop on like Enter the Gungeon and all these other things. It's like I came to Enter the Gungeon like 10 patches in, and like this is 1.0. So I think Patrick mentioned this earlier, but I can see them like possibly adding like a whole lot of shit to this game, which would be cool.
Yeah,
But
there's a lot
it's like
of...
I'm judging it based on like, of the first release. And I think that there's a lot of room to grow here, which would be great.
It's the first time we've seen Supergiant do a game that feels like it could have that degree of ongoing, like Pyre, Bastion, and Transistor have endings, right? Like, and again, this does too, but
Pyre has a 2-player mode for just allowing you to play the sports game thing, but like I don't know anyone that does that. I think it's
it
really
doesn't have
fun.
online multiplayer, right? It's only
it's only local.
only.
We did. There was a save point.
It is really fun.
There was a save point 2-player thing, which I think was Dap and Mo. Is that right, Cado? Do you remember?
Yes, that was Dap and Mo.
Yeah, shout out to Dap and Mo. So if you want to see that, it's still up on the Twitch on twitch.tv/Waypoint. Because seeing it was sick. It was like, yo, they should have given this online play because this game is great, and seeing people who are good at it like compete is actually really fun.
It sounds like that game. It sounds like the game didn't sell particularly well. They put out like because someone asked like, yo, put this game on Switch like all your other games. And they were like, well.
Do it for me personally, because I need the NBA Jam with feelings. I do need it on every console.
I feel like
I do wonder. Oh, go ahead, Cado.
I was just gonna say, like, there's always this question of the Switch audience and whether or not something will blow up there, because so many things kind of have, right? Like they found a new life on Switch where before maybe they stumbled, and I feel like I don't know. It's just almost. I mean, I don't know actually know what the financials are like. Yeah, but like, try it. Let's see what happens.
I'll be curious if Supergiant themselves as a studio puts a pin on this. Like, I think they'll do an expansion. I think there'll be like one other big thing for this, like over the course of the next year.
Classic PC expansion model, not
which is their sort of way of which is their way of saying goodbye to it. Or it's also like look at like a game like Dead Cells, right? Like, that's a game that it was so successful that it split into a separate studio to keep running like the socialist co-op company that made Dead Cells spun off into a capitalist profit machine to make more Dead Cells. I expect they do one big expansion, put a pin on it, and say we're on to the next thing. But it's also not, Hades seems like the kind of game that if they wanted to, they could run for years.
This is the Don't Starve of Supergiant, right?
Yes.
Where Clay...
And maybe there's a small studio that just does Hades stuff. But yeah, you should explain how Clay figured that out.
Clay, which is probably one of the other studios that... Clay and Supergiant seem very similar in my minds in terms of like attention to detail, quality, polish, blah, 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 and also indie studio. I think Clay is much bigger in terms of people working there at this point. But Clay had done traditional release cycles in the past. They had put out like the Shank game, Shank and Shank 2, Mark of the Ninja. Mark of the Ninja had DLC, stuff like that. And then they put out Don't Starve. And Don't Starve blew up in 2013 in such a huge way that they're still supporting Don't Starve. Don't Starve expansions and pseudo sequels are still dropping within the last couple of years. I think like their most recent thing left early access last year. And so like that became the sort of lifeline for that studio to then also continue to make Invisible Ink and Oxygen Not Included and Hot Lava and now Griftlands, which is coming out, I believe, out of early access, I hope, this year. Also, Griftlands fucking rules. So people should play Griftlands.
Griftlands is really great.
And so like that model I think could be really fun for Supergiant if they did decide to go that way. What I wouldn't want is for it to become the Hades company that only puts out Hades. What I would really want is if they can use Hades and Hades' success to fund not just the next game, but a bunch of additional projects or frankly, just like pay all your people really good, continue working at the pace you're already working at, and put out something else cool in a few years, supported on the back of Hades. That'd be good. I don't necessarily need it to like franchise out a la Dead Cells. I would just want it to be like, congrats on your success. I hope you use this money in a good way, So, all right, we should take a break. I'm seriously considering handing over the reins of this podcast so I don't get Hades spoilers. So I'm not as far. And I'm like, if I get those spoilers, am I going to stop?
I just have good news for you. All I have is good news for you.
I know, but that good news is going to be like, and that means, don't worry, Austin, you don't have to play it anymore because now you know the spoilers in your brain, and so you can turn off the faucet of what happens next. You know what I mean?
Your fingers are cowards. Is what
There's one.
That's correct. My fingers are cowards. Yeah. Fucking put it on my gravestone.
Another fucking
Yeah, that is my fingers are cowards, I shout. Yeah, absolutely a drill tweet. Fuck it, I'm gonna hand it over. Who wants reins of this podcast? I'm not gonna let myself get. I'm gonna fucking beat this game, so I'm not gonna let myself get spoiled on it. Cado,
oh my god.
you're the producer. I'm giving you the reins of this podcast.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Take us to break.
This is part of being a producer.
I haven't beat it either.
Sorry. Too bad.
Cado,
This is your job.
Oh god.
That's brutal. Now I feel worse.
This is your job, he says.
I was gonna have to stick
Wow.
around anyways. I was already gonna get spoiled. I just didn't realize I was gonna guide conversation about a thing I haven't beaten yet.
You don't have to.
That's
I guess
okay,
that's
Cado.
fair.
I talk
That's
a
fair.
lot.
We can. Do
You know what?
you want to try to tap in Emmanuel? Is that crazy?
You know what? I'm down. Let's tap Emmanuel in.
Please.
Let's bring Emmanuel in live. We're doing it live. Fuck
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
I guess.
Two people
okay.
I
Someone
talk to
ping
every
Emmanuel
day, all
I'm
day.
going-
Jason
I'm-
Van
Bye,
Dyke.
Patrick. Bye, Patrick.
It's just gonna be a Gita party. I can't wait.
While we're trying to figure out Cado or Jason, someone pinging Emmanuel, someone on the Emmanuel.
Yeah, I'm hitting him up.
The last thing I do want to say is one of the things that bums me out about this game. One of the only big bummers is that there are no fucking fat people in this game. That to me means that they failed at their attempt to make a game filled with hot people because they fail to include hot fat people, which is a real fucking thing that exists. God damn it!
Like even Sisyphus is a big boy, but
he's a big boy, but he's cut,
but
dude.
they draw him cut. Like,
yes, the only two things that are around in that game are Boldy the Boulder and Dusa, who is literally a woman without a body, but her face is round, and that sucks. Because
I just need a large bear to hug.
Like, give me if you can't draw Greek gods who are literally kings and queens of excess as hot fat people, you done fucked up. I don't mean all of them. Just give me a couple. Toss
Even
me a
like
fucking bone.
Dionysus is cut.
Right?
Like he's cut as fuck
Shit,
up.
motherfucker, you just drink, eat grapes, and fuck all day. I guess the fucking probably contributes. But he is not working on his calves like that. I know he isn't.
No. His voice actor is a weird British swinger voice. Like, come on, just reflect what that is a little bit better.
Please give me Dionysus in a velvet robe. Give me some roll. I'm just saying, it's right there.
Yeah.
It's right there.
George Costanza ass.
George Costanza as Dionysus. Incredible. Perfect.
Yeah. That's representation.
Actually, can we recast all of the Hades gods as Seinfeld characters, please?
all the women, they're all just different versions of Elaine.
That's the actual thing. Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely which is your favorite Elaine? Are you more of a Demeter Elaine or more of an Artemis Elaine? That's. God.
Emmanuel is getting lunch, so I don't know when he's gonna come back. Yeah.
Boo, Emmanuel.
Well,
Boo.
I hope Emmanuel enjoys lunch. I'm going to hand the reins over to Cado to guide this conversation. We can just eradicate the hierarchy of podcasts, eliminate the host position.
It'll be fine.
Give control of the means to the people, and in this case, it's the three of you. Thank you for taking this bullet for me, Cado. I really do appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It was just the thing. It's we were both going to get shot anyway, but if only one of us get shot,
I'll just I don't have a choice. You can leave.
you could just not pay attention. You know what I mean?
I will always love you. The bodyguard. It's all happening right now.
It is all happening right now.
Just mute your headphones and talk, and
right.
if you feel you have something
I'll just
to say,
wait
and we'll just see
appropriate
how
amount
it
of time
goes.
and be like, that's interesting. What do you think, Jason? That's
Just
interesting.
laugh
What
every
do you
once in a
think,
while.
Gita?
Yeah. Something funny will probably be being said. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I will see y'all next week. Thank you for joining. Or thank you for letting me join you. Take it away. I guess we're going to break. Be right back.
Hello, we are back to the Hades Spoilercast, starting our actual story spoilers section. If you've been with us this whole time, I've realized at this point we actually hadn't explained the different ways that this game kind of doles out narrative, which I think is really interesting and part of one of my favorite bits about the game and the reason I keep playing it. But just a quick overview, each of the upgrades that you get, the boons that you get from the gods, also comes with a small snippet, basically, from that god, kind of talking to Zagreus, and you kind of get an idea, a sense of what's happening through the way they interact with you. Also, at the end of each run, or at the beginning, depending on how you what your viewpoint is, you start at or end at, when you die, Hades' house, right? And he's got various servants, essentially, and your mother, Nyx, is also there, and you can talk to all of them. And this is kind of this loop of like dying, coming back to the house, talking with everyone. Everything changes each time. And same with the boons that you get out in the world. Each time you get a new boon, you get a new bit of kind of lore and story. And it's kind of sprinkled both within runs and also at the in between runs.
It is the thing that when I felt like I was like, okay, the itch has been scratched. Mm-hmm. Chasing down subplots and figuring out how to progress them, that was the thing that kept me coming back to it, especially when it comes to subplots that can progress in a romantic direction, like Megara and Thanatos, who, if you don't know, you can date them both at the same time, which is nice to know.
Hell
yeah, and they don't care. They, in fact,
Zagreus has two hands.
Exactly. Zagreus has two hands. It can be like that.
That's great.
I think it's dope that we were talking about bosses earlier, but I love that Megara is just like hanging out at the house, you know, and she's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you later, but like also I'm just like doing my job, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. She looks at it like, my ex-boyfriend is making me look bad in front of my boss.
Right.
So you like really understand like the depth of her ire there, which is like, I can't believe I dated my boss's son and now he's making me look like an idiot in front of his dad. Fuck. Like the development though, like they set up every character with an incredibly good like narrative hook for their relationship to Zagreus. Even somebody like Hypnos, who I found really, really irritating because he's the first person you talk to and like see when you come back to the House of Hades. And Hypnos is the god of sleep, and he just sort of like, he acts like the welcoming committee essentially for everyone who's dead and is coming through the House of Hades. And when you talk to him, and if you die to an enemy that other than the final boss, he'll have like a little bit of commentary on like what happened to you, but it's always like no shit Sherlock advice, like, oh man, wizards, have you tried not standing in front of their projectiles? I think that would help a lot. And you're like, shut the fuck up. Fuck. Even someone like Hypnos though, like once you talk to them enough, like that dynamic though becomes so tasty, like the farther along you get in the game, and the more you just want to see what he's going to say to you about how you died, especially like when you get to Theseus and Asterius. He's like an Asterius fanboy. I'm like, oh my god, you died to Asterius again? Can you get me his autograph maybe? I mean, just like, can you think about that? I would love that.
Gita, you said earlier that you are a fan of Greek mythology, and it's like, I know a little bit about it, but I'm not deep into it. Do you think that knowing, you know, the stories of the different gods, et cetera, has helped you in any way in this game? Or is it more of just like a narrative thing? Like, oh, I understand where these people are coming from because I have a deeper understanding of, you know, Ares and what's her face? God of Aphrodite's relationship. Yeah.
Like a lot of children in the American school system, I also had a like segment on the Greek and Roman history. But the difference at my like dumb private school that I went to in New England, that was a mess. It was in capital M mess of a school. But they had the 5th grade classrooms in like those like temporary classroom trailers. But they called it the Acropolis. And they had this whole thing where they sorted people into different nation states from Greece. I was, of course, a part of Athens because I was a little goody two-shoe smarty pants. Nice. But like even before then, I read the D'Aulaire's book, which you'll probably recognize this cover, that I put in the link to Amazon, of the good book of, it's a pretty sanitized. They don't tell you, for example, how often Zeus rapes random mortal women, which is like a ton. He just loves to rape random mortal women, sometimes in the form of a swan. They don't get into all that stuff, but absolutely imprinted on me. One of the times, in a chat, he was a lonely, nerdy child being rewarded for my smarts felt novel and like appreciated. So I just feel like this game scratches that itch enough of like a person who hasn't really thought deeply about this since they were 10 and is now 31 years old. Because you like get a lot of the weird little in-jokes that happen in here. Like there's a point, like the joke of Dusa just being a floating head. She was decapitated. That's how she died. So now she's a floating head. And like that is that's a little cute mythology joke. Or sometimes you can get a duo boon and the two gods will interact with each other. I especially like seeing like Zeus and Poseidon both trying to one-up each other with which one is the cooler and more powerful god, which is like definitely their relationship to each other. Or just like how much everyone thinks Ares is a weird creep. It's really funny. Like Ares will be like, oh, I love war, killing, death, and dying. And everyone else is like, this guy is weird. Don't know what anyone else sees in him. So it's the interactions always lead to like a little bit of like an Easter egg towards people that know a little bit more about this. They do like change some things though to make it a little bit more in line with Western values. Like Megara and Zagreus normally would be related, but they're not. They're not in this game. Yeah.
Right.
I think, I mean, this is a very basic observation, but I think Supergiant deserves like a ton of credit for taking a very familiar world and just like choosing to focus on Zagreus, who's like a very, very minor character, like barely mentioned in Greek mythology, as far as I know, and using it, like setting the perspective from his point of view and really building out this, the world of the gods in a way that feels familiar, but also advances the story and is like, it's modern in certain ways. I mean, they have a gun, as we know, and also just like these characters feel familiar to me, but I feel like I'm learning a little bit about their personalities. And I mean, I have like a very surface level knowledge of Greek and Roman mythology, but I do feel like it's nice to know their stories, but also feel like it's a nice fresh take on this world. And I think in less deft hands, you could see like, we're going to make a game about, Greek mythology, and it just being like a disaster. And that's clearly not what happened here.
Well, they look at Greek mythology in a similar way to the way that the Greeks and Romans worshipped and regarded their pantheon, which was that they have the same like dysfunctions as human beings, but they are incredibly like superhumanly powerful, right? So they have all the petty problems that we have. Like the entire dynamic between Zagreus and his dad Hades is that he just hates his fucking dad and just like doesn't feel appreciated by his dad. And like his dad is like low-key just emotionally abusive constantly to him. And this is like a story about gods, yes, and like the circumstances are supernatural, but like a lot of people in their lives have had a moment that are just like, I wish I could just escape this home. And I don't know if that's possible. And that is baseline very relatable. And I think that it's a lot of what, if you look at the stories in Greek myths, it was about trying to make the cosmic and unknowable relatable and knowable. And this is just completely in line with that.
I think it's also really interesting, given that Zagreus is related to all of the gods, the kind of distance you have when like you don't know your cousins real well, like you've heard of them, like they live too far away for you to see them more than like once every 5 years. It's like it's got that vibe down very well, and then you're like having those direct interactions and you're kind of like peeling apart and learning more about their interpersonal issues is all really kind of a fun way to dole out, right? To start from less and then like kind of build up these different relationships, which is fun.
Yeah, Hades, like all throughout Zagreus's upbringing, was like, yeah, one day we're gonna get on our chariot and go visit your cousins and Olympus, but never fucking did. And then Zagreus got Facebook and was like, I know we've never met, but like we're related, so let's start chatting. And it turns out,
it's like one day Hades just went through like the whole list of his aunties and uncles, and he was like, what? Like me, when my mom tried to tell me how I'm related to one of the millions millions of people in India that I call uncle, but don't really know what the connection to me is. Like, I have a lot of uncles. None of them are my mom's siblings. It does provide that necessary hook where, I mean, especially where I think we should probably, this is the spoiler cast, right? So we all know that spoilers are happening. When you get to that final boss, I remember just being like pissed enough to like have to get up and walk around my office for a second. The final boss of Hades is fucking Hades. Fuck your dad. You have to beat up your dad. He is like a absolute bitch ass who has 2 forms. I hate my dad so much.
Dude, the first time I killed the first form and then there was a second bar, I was just like
so mad.
I was like, of course there is, but also fuck this. Fuck this so hard. It's like just devastating.
It was like he gets down and he kneels and he's impervious and is like, he's got a sliver of health. And I'm like, do not refill that bar. It was like, you better not. You better not refill that bar. And then he does. And then he has the homing laser attack, which is just an absolute nightmare. God.
I've got to say, and I know that since this is a spoiler cast, I'm sure that there are heat levels where Hades becomes more difficult. But after having beaten him a handful of times, I now find him to be pretty predictable and not that hard, especially once you realize you can just like hide behind a pillar from his laser attacks.
Yeah. Once I realized the pillar thing, I'm like, okay, the second form is not actually as scary, but it's still annoying.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely like not easy, but I would say that Theseus is harder, in my opinion, than Hades once you're regularly getting to Hades and like learn his types of attacks and stuff like that. But like, yeah, it's like you got to beat your fucking dad, and he is the first time, like, I think he's a worthy final boss in that. I died, I think, 3 or 4 times to him before I managed to beat him. Like, it's definitely not a pushover final boss in any way, shape, or form. It's like you have to be in like pretty decent shape and like have death defiances and like ready to take a lot of damage there. And he hits hard. He hits like 50 points sometimes, some of his swings.
Yeah, I've had 80 health points taken off in one blow from him with the spin attack. Yeah, the spin attack, if you don't get out of the way, it will take off the third of your health. It is rough. So the one thing we didn't mention is that right before you get to Hades, you end up in the river Styx and you have to defeat Cerberus. You don't fight the dog. You do not fight Cerberus. You have to find him a treat. And that can be a place where like you are completely set up perfectly to go into the boss fight. And then everything that happens in Styx will just fuck you like in a way that's really frustrating. There's a new mechanic. Enemies can poison you. And I've had situations where I didn't even know I was poisoned. And then I die. And like my run is over. And I don't know what happened to me. And I have to say, like, in terms of enemies, I just hate the motherfuckers. The rats and the satyrs are my most loathed enemies at this point. I think even more than witches. The satyrs are the hardest enemies
in the game. They're so, I fuck them. Their lasers or whatever they shoot at you shoot like very fast. They're very hard to dodge. And then it's like, you got to find the little pond or like whatever that heals you, the holy water. I don't know what it is.
And like you will always be like the rats are my least favorite because they spread poison on the floor. So if you're trying to stay near the pond that heals you, you will just make it so that it is covered in poison. You'll get a stacked poison effect like while you're trying to heal yourself. It's like difficult to find a good strat or build that both attacks them and keeps them like away from you. This is part of why I love the gun.
push things are really helpful, as well as just like ranged attacks and stuff like that. And I found that it's a really interesting game in that the skills that you need, or like to beat Theseus, you need to kind of like get up close and personal and like fuck him up, because if you have like bow and arrow or cast or whatever, like you're just going to hit his shield over and over again unless you're like pretty fast and get behind him. But then you get to Styx and it's like you need the opposite skill set. You need to be able to stay away from the rats. And it's like, fuck, I built for Theseus and now I cannot beat these rats and the satyrs because you're in like very,
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I think that I like that. One, I like that you don't fight Cerberus and that he's your pet and the dog. Thank God they don't make you fight the dog.
I
And
know.
two, fuck the poison. The poison is not fun. Don't like it. Not a fan.
Fuck to poison. Yeah. You can get like an extra boon, or if you save all your cash until the end, what's his name? Charon will have in a shop, and you might be able to buy a diamond or some more health, or Titan blood sometimes shows up in there. For like a lot of gold though, for like 1,000 gold, which I haven't been able to save that much. But also like you can tempt fate in there in ways that will distinctly and specifically destroy your chances for the final boss fight. Where like I've had things where I've like gotten the treat you need to give Cerberus. So you're in the River of Styx. You are presented with a series of rooms, and behind like one of the doors will be a treat for Cerberus. And you can go through as many rooms as you like, but you'll only get healing after you find the treat, and you will not find healing in any of the other rooms. So if you have like a Well of Charon item that like puts healing items, a chance of them dropping from fallen enemies, you might be able to like go through a couple more rooms than you normally would have. But like generally speaking, I found that if I try to get another special, like another boon that I really want after I found Cerberus's treat, that means that I will just completely fuck myself. Like I just like that's it.
A little bit.
Yeah, it's very tempting though. And sometimes you're like, what if I just had like, what if I sold a boon and then did this room and got another boon? Like I feel like I could just perfect no. You have to just go and like trust that whatever setup you have prepared will do it. Have you ever had a run where just like you did one, you were just like a little too extra? Because that's been happening to me a lot recently.
Yeah, that happened the first few times I got there, where I was like, I'm pretty powerful and like I have a lot of health and like some death defiances or whatever. So I'm gonna try to get more powerful by doing like, you know, another one of these gates or two. And then like on the very last gate, I just get extremely poisoned and I'm like, this is not good. I am much weaker than I was like 2 rooms ago and I'm going to die now.
Hoisted by my own petard, one might say.
I've got to say, the last few times I've played, I have been going through all of them though, because I do think it's like if you figure out a way to handle all of the rats and satyrs and those fucking laser dudes and traps and all the things in there, it's like those extra couple boons are usually very powerful, because at least the way I've been playing it, where I try to just like get a lot of boons from 1 or 2 gods, because the more, at least as I can tell, the more boons you get from the same gods, the more likely you are to get like a duo or legendary or heroic boon, which can just like really, really help at the end. Like I've had runs where it's like, there's no way I'm going to beat Hades this time. But then like I get a really sick boon either from Chiron in the end or just like in one of those River Styx rooms. And it's like, oh, now I can beat him like pretty easily because I have just like an incredible call or like whatever.
Yeah. Or just like you grabbed divine, you kept the dash slot open because you're hoping for divine bash and you got it. That's happened to me a couple of times where it's just like, ooh, mama, I hope if I go through this Athena room, I will get divine dash. And she comes through and it's like a legendary like version of it. And you're just, it's just.
God, I love when Athena gives that to you at the end and it's like, where were you this whole run? But you came through. Thank God. Like you came through.
Thank Athena. We've alluded to this a couple times, but haven't actually outright said it because we weren't in the spoiler section yet. And I'm super curious because I haven't gotten to the end yet. I haven't beaten it yet, but I've heard mention of some new mechanic that happens after you've beaten Hades the first time, right?
So after you beat Hades for the first time, the first thing that happens to you is you meet your mom, and then you learn that you can't stay on the surface permanently. And you die, and you go back to Hades, and you're upset about that. Yeah, I spoiled myself because I was a little bit like, I don't actually know if I have the time to beat this game, and then literally, so I finally beat the final boss, and I was at it's my 104th run when I beat the final boss, and I found It was literally a situation where I was like, I was a little stressed out after the presidential debate. And I was like, I need to do one run of Hades to chill out and like think about something else and then go to bed. And I picked the shield, and I had aspect of chaos in the shield, which is like whenever you do your special, 2 shields go, which is just really sick. And I ended up with a very good Dionysus-based like boon like build, and I beat Hades as an absolute fluke. Like just like really wasn't expecting it. I was up much later than I thought I was going to be because I was like, I actually do think this is the one. Shit, like I can't believe I made it all the way to Hades. Might as well just die here and go to bed. But no. But when you restart after that, when you get back into Hades, when you go back out to do another run because you can't have all your questions answered in the first brief conversation you have with your mom, you find that your door to Tartarus is different. It now has a pact of punishment, which is a new screen a new thing you have to do to prepare to leave before you go into your next run. And you can again gain the benefits for clearing bosses by adding levels of heat. So you can, get the Titan blood, the diamond, and the ambrosia for all the weapons you've cleared Hades with before if you add 1 heat. And the things that add heat are just new. It's like the thing that Supergiant does a lot, where they give you optional ways to make the game harder. Right. So
the like idols from Bastion or whatever.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of the idols from Bastion, where it's like, listen, you will get a greater benefit, but now enemies all have like 20%, like 15% more health. Or extreme measures is the one that really changes things up, where you get bosses have different forms. This is the thing I want Patrick to discover, because you can get Megara on extreme measures. Her 2 sisters come through, and I just can't wait. I can't wait. Like, Patrick's gonna be so mad.
The first time that happens, it's like, like fuck this. Like I see we're fighting all 3 of them now.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's there's like other fun ones. There's a one that I want to try where like the first hit on every enemy just doesn't count. Which that sounds like a very fun way to add challenge. And they're like standard ones like, oh, you have less health and they have more health, or their attacks do more damage, or their armor is stronger. But like it's figuring out how like again, like the boons, it's like figuring out how you can survive different combinations of these so that you can get way more Titan blood, or you can get way more, like a ton of diamonds or something like that.
Right.
There's one I extremely don't want to try, which is the one where you have to like purge a boon every floor or whatever.
No, thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like get rid of something that is helping you beat this game. It's like
no.
I like my powers.
I love that.
It's exactly like the thing in Pyre, which spoilers for Pyre, but when you get to they do a really good job of keeping this secret, but it makes I feel like a lot of people didn't get to this point, and that's why they don't like it. But at the end of so it's like NBA Jam, where you have like a bracket and like you go to a championship. But it's like if at the end of NBA Jam, you had to like trade away your highest at the end of Pyre, like you have to select a character that's just going to go away permanently if you win.
Damn.
And it reminds me a lot of that. Like this is a particular way in which Supergiant specifically likes to emotionally hurt the people that play their games.
Right. Yeah.
It's but I mean, other than that, like the thing about getting heat, like what I was so excited for though, was like being able to get more ambrosia so that I could date more people.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a thing that we've also just kind of mentioned offhand, but in case people haven't are still listening but haven't actually engaged with that system, as far as I can tell, that's the only thing you can really do with ambrosia is give it to people, right? Yeah. And each time you give it to them, you get the first time I think you get the keepsakes, correct?
Yes.
And then after that, you kind of get further like bits of dialogue with them, and you like strengthen your relationship specifically with them. But I don't think we've talked about the keepsakes either. Just really quick, those are like kind of like mini idols almost, where like there's like a buff and a debuff kind of on one item. The first one I got was the Achilles one. because the first one I gave immediately to Achilles because I think he's hot. But
oh my god, I'm so excited for you with what happens to Achilles. Anyway,
I gotta give him more. Although now I think Sisyphus is very cute, and I need to give him more.
Aww.
He just seems so sad.
He's nice
out there.
too.
Yeah. Where basically I take less damage from the front, so as long as I'm facing enemies, I can take more hits, but backstab damage gets a small boost, so things like that.
Most of the keepsakes don't have like a debuff on them. The Achilles one is just like it's Achilles heal.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
You know, a lot of them, when you give nectar to the idols, it's just like that is what allows you to farm for builds because they have a higher chance of showing up and giving you better boons when you have their keepsake equipped. But so I've like upgraded most of those keepsakes, and I'm trying to like upgrade the others because you can, you know, when you use them a lot, if you clear a certain number of encounters with them, they will upgrade and the benefits will be even greater. And some of them are really great. Like the one that Dusa gives you has just like a chance of pots having healing items, which is very useful. The one that Cerberus gives you, which is the one that a lot of players get right away, it just gives you a permanent health boost, which is incredibly helpful. Yeah. But if you give characters ambrosia, there's a certain number of characters, and I only got to this point in the, you know, after beating the boss. You give them certain characters ambrosia, they will give you not just a keepsake, but a companion, which is like a summon that you can have for boss fights.
Oh, word?
And you can only use them a limited amount of times per run. You can give the companion itself more ambrosia to be able to summon them more times, which is like why you need ambrosia. But yeah, like it's not just like a summon, but like it's a summon, and they'll also give you like it's a very particular kind of thing. Like you can actually get one from Sisyphus, and he will do 1,000 damage, but he will also drop some healing items and some Claren's Obol and some darkness for you as well.
Oh shit!
I got one from Thanatos, which is like he just like murks everybody in an area after a short pause, like he does when he shows up in encounters. And though like the game, like it's balanced in this way where the exact moment where I hit a plateau where I feel like I've seen all the mechanics and like I understand what they can all do in combination with each other, it's like, here's one more thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like changes the whole game.
Yeah, it was really great. I definitely felt like I thought I had hit that pretty early, like hour 2 or something. I was like, okay, I think I've seen everything, and now it's just about grinding this out. And then they throw in fucking that, and then that was the first time I saw chaos. Right, the like
oh my God, I love
chaos boons being ones where you have like a limited time debuff, and then at the end of that you get some sort of permanent long term buff that is really good. And they just keep dripping. It feels like they've paced out super well the drip at which you get new mechanics to kind of layer on top. And I'm 9 hours in, and I still haven't hit any end to it. And it sounds like you're still. But how many hours in are you at this point, Gita? And you still haven't found anything? Like
hundreds and hundreds. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like this game is astounding in a lot of ways in that it's like there are hundreds of hours of, I mean, I guess it's probably less than this, but they have so many lines of voice acting that just come out in different things. I'm so impressed with the voice acting and the fact that, you know, the story goes in so many different ways and it's doled out at a pace that feels right, but also that can be frustratingly slow at some points where it's like, oh, I have to do like an entirely new run just to get like a little morsel more of information. And I talked to Emmanuel who couldn't join us here, but he said that he did hit credits. I haven't, but he says that there's even more after that. So it's like, he says he doesn't feel like he's like at the end of the game and doesn't know like when the end of the game comes. So maybe there is no end. Who knows?
Yeah.
That sounds nice. I do like just like how every subplot, when you resolve it, it feels thematically tied into Zagreus' larger journey. Have either of you gotten close to the end of some of these subplots or resolved any of them?
No, I'm still pretty early on personally, but
okay. Yeah. I will say the direction that once you get to Elysium, if you see an NPC encounter in Elysium as a room, go directly to that door, Cado. And I'll try not
go to that door, yes.
Yeah. Always go to that door, give that guy tons of nectar and ambrosia. like you will enjoy what that does with your relationship to Achilles. It's a very fun.
Oh.
I'm gonna keep that one. I'm gonna keep that one in my back
Great.
pocket for you
Thanks.
because I think that you need to have that surprise specifically. But yeah, I got really invested in Orpheus and Eurydice, partially because Eurydice, the first time you meet her, it's this beautiful moment of peace and calm, and like her design as a wood nymph, I think is really, really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
She's like she's got like African American features, and speaks some African American vernacular English to you. It sounds like she has a Black voice actor, and then she just sings this absolutely beautiful song that I've just like stopped in that room and listened to her sing before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not long after. Yeah, good riddance.
It's just that it's that one classic. They always have one in each one of these games. Supergiant, like female singer singing something like hauntingly beautiful song. Like that's her.
I've got to say, like, Eurydice is so much more compelling to me than Orpheus, and I know that she's his muse, but I found like Orpheus to be like a bit of a sad boy. In a way that is like you're a bit pathetic here. And,
he's got fuckboy vibes,
a
little bit.
Yeah, Eurydice is just like chilling in Thanatos, not whatever it's called. The second floor, and just like in her beautiful bedroom type situation, gives
with
you
mad
like
food just waiting for you.
Tons of food, gives you like sick upgrades, like sings beautiful songs. It's like I love running into her, whereas like Orpheus, every time I talk to him, it's like woe is me. He started singing recently in my playthrough, which has been nice, but definitely like Eurydice out of his league,
the resolution of their plot, I think, is actually the character growth you see from Orpheus. I was the same when I first met Orpheus. I was like, I told him, I met Eurydice. There's an option to tell him that you met Eurydice, or it like comes up in dialogue, and he's like, no, I hope she's doing great. And I was like, I hate you. Fuck off. But once you talk to him, like this game is very good at getting me invested in characters that I didn't think I would like. Like, I didn't think I would have anything to do with Hypnos or Eurydice. Not Eurydice, Orpheus. But once you get Orpheus to understand that Eurydice is still out there and that his end of relationship with Eurydice didn't mean the end of her as a being, you see him continue to grow from the end of his story of, Orpheus in the underworld. And that feels very satisfying. You get a duet version of that song at the end of that. Aww. And it is a really, really touching moment to go and just like, oh, I can't wait to see, Eurydice. And I just did the final thing in their plot, and I wonder like if she'll say some new dialogue about having seen Orpheus finally. And then instead of that, it's just the two of them there, and they're like, take your boon, but we've got a lot of catching up to do. And it's just so wonderful.
Aww.
Or it's just like, I helped someone grow. Yeah. Like, it feels really good. I also discovered that with Hypnos, who I was like immediately, like, early on, I was like, I'm never giving this character shit. Like, I hate them. But you start to learn that, like, their relationship with Thanatos is Hypnos' twin brother. And Hypnos' relationship with both his mom, Nyx, and his brother Thanatos is really rocky because he's, like, pretty self-centered. And the way that he talks to you, like a sort of unobservant, narcissistic, like, just, like, casually cruel guy, is the way that he talks to everyone. So when you resolve his plotline, you are helping mend this broken family. And it just shows you just, like, how centered Supergiant is and the crafting of this narrative. Like, everything is about broken relationships and repairing them. Even Nyx. Nyx is the daughter of Chaos, who has no gender and is just the primordial chaos that existed before we all got here. And Nyx hasn't talked to Chaos since the beginning of creation. But through interacting with those characters over and over, you can repair that. You can get them to talk to each other and find something there that wasn't before. And that I really like how they found that hook for like basically every character interaction.
Yeah, I think Nyx is like just a very powerful character, I think, and the more you learn about Zagreus and his relationship with his mom, who like Nyx raised him, and Nyx has been sort of like helping to get him out of the underworld. And then you learn that his real mom is Persephone. Sorry, Cado, if you haven't learned that yet, but this is the spoiler cast, and you agreed to take one for the team.
The way you learn it in the game is really fun, so I won't spoil that. But that's a great moment of Supergiant narration shenanigans, I'll say.
Yeah, those like sequences in the game are really fun and really great, and you feel like you really earn them. I'm not sure if like. One thing I can't tell, and this is an extremely annoying humble brag probably, but like since I've played so many other roguelites, it's like I think I beat Hades on like my 15th run or something like that. And I couldn't tell like whether I was learning, like whether the story is doled out faster if you win more, or if it's doled out according to like number of runs / like time spent. And that's still not clear to me. Like there's definitely certain things that are doled out depending on when you win runs, but I think they also, if you die over and over and over again, you're still getting a lot of the story like at a good pace.
I am not like you and haven't played a lot of roguelites, and I will say I think that they trigger certain plot revelations on how far you've gotten in the underworld, like how close to the surface you've gotten, because some things like just have to narratively happen in order for the ending scene to make sense, right? Like you have to know that Persephone is your mom before you get to the actual surface. Otherwise, like the player will be very confused about what's happening there. And I think like, you know, I had the story I thought very nicely doled out to me over my literally 104 runs before I was able to beat the final boss. And there is actually a point where you have to beat the final boss in order to really progress the story. Because part of that is because like a lot of the story happens after you beat that final boss and you have your interactions with Persephone and you learn even more secrets. But the other thing is like you will run out of the ability to earn more resources to give to the characters whose like plot lines you want to progress. And I got to a point I around the time when I beat the game, the final boss, not the game. I was at that point where I was like, I need more Titan blood, and I need more diamonds, and I need more ambrosia, and that is not going to happen until I beat up my dad, and I really need to do that now.
The fucking diamonds, man! It took me so long to get enough diamonds to. They're very rare in my experience. Yeah,
like, I feel like diamonds, like mostly the things you can buy with diamonds are new songs to ask Orpheus to sing for you. But also there's like a couple of really tight upgrades that I really want. But diamonds are just like, you only get them from defeating the Hydra. And I mean, it's the easiest boss. You get like mad diamonds all at once, and then you spend them all, and you're like, shit, I need more diamonds. And then like you just have to wait until you get the Pact of Punishment in order to farm them again. And like, it's not like Titan Blood, where you can actually find Titan Blood in exchange for an ambrosia in the little shop in Hades. There's a tiny little shop where you can trade resources for other resources. And that shows up fairly often. So I've managed to like get myself the one Titan Blood I needed because I had some ambrosia. But with diamonds, I just feel like you're only reliably going to get them through that boss fight. And I need so many of them.
Right. And it's like I think you can buy diamonds from that shop, but it's like 10 ambrosia for one diamond. And it's like, no deal, shopkeeper.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah. That's a shitty deal. I want to fuck Thanatos.
Yeah. Gita, have you fucked around with the fishing stuff?
I love fishing so much.
Fishing is great.
I had a great run. I don't know if this happened to you. This is a random thing that happens, but I had, the rod of fishing. I got that upgrade. And then I also was using Poseidon's keepsake. And I ran into Poseidon in like the very first room. And he was like, yo, fuck, you got the rod of fishing. That rocks. I love that. And then the next time I ran into Poseidon, he was like, listen, I only have one boon for you, but it's going to be tight. Like, I want to see you just like fish everything. Yes. So he gives you this boon that's like every room has a fishing point. And you get mad fish all the time. It was so much fun.
It becomes like Bass Hunter, like 2020, like just gotta find more fish.
Hell yeah.
As far as I can
to
tell,
the head chef in the restaurant, and it gives you like, it's very helpful if you are like me, like just fucking around with all the like. I finally gave all the NPCs that stand around Hades like places to sit. They'll never sit in them, but I'm just like, I would like for Thanatos to have these 2 chairs. I would like for Hypnos to have a little place to fall asleep. Very nice to give Achilles a rug to stand on. Also, I felt very good about that.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't started messing around with the cosmetic upgrades because I'm so precious about my resources, because I'm just like, I don't know, like what if I can't get any more? But I guess I can always get more and should be
you will get
kind.
So many gemstones, more
I
gemstones.
should just be a kind
really
person and give Achilles a rug to stand on. That sounds like a nice thing.
If you give Nyx a vase of flowers to stand next to you, she'll thank you for them. She's like, they're beautiful, and I'm like, oh, thanks, Mom.
I grabbed one on accident just to kind of see what they were, because it was one of the early cheap ones, and it turned out to be pretty useful, which is the like water basin that you put in your room. It lets you see how many runs and how many runs you've done and how many enemies you've killed, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad I picked that one up, but otherwise I haven't really dug it too deep into any of the other ones yet.
Is the prophecy something that you have to buy, the list of prophecies, or does that just appear to you? I can't remember.
I don't know, because I haven't seen that yet, I think.
Oh,
is that in your room
list
also?
of prophecies. Yeah, it's at the desk.
Yeah, the prophecies are dope. Get mad Titan's blood and diamonds from that. Except it always fucks up my runs, because you can see like which boons you need to finish a prophecy, and it's like, I don't need this one, but it'll help me finish a prophecy, so like I'm gonna grab it, and then I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
I've had so many runs where I've just been like, okay, well, I'm gonna take the prophecy, the fated boon, and just give up on this one. Like, this one's just a bust now because I have to take this thing I've never used before and suspect might suck, which is why I've never used it. It is an excellent way, though, to make you change how you play the game. It reminds me weirdly. I mean, I've been playing a lot of Genshin Impact, so I've been thinking a lot about sort of the design here, like legacy of Breath of the Wild. It reminds me a lot of breakable weapons in that game, where you can get into this total pattern of just breezing through every encounter because you have a weapon you really, really like,
right.
But you will be forced to change how you play the game just because of what the game will throw at you. And I appreciate that, because it makes me actually try everything in the game. I'm very much a person, like in a fighting game, if I find a move that you don't know how to block, I will just use that move.
Right.
Over and over and over. I'm very annoying to play competitive games with, because I'll just I'll find the way to cheese down all your health, because I don't really want to try very hard.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had runs where it's like, I'm just going to use the magnet pull on the fists like 1,000,000 times. And I'm like, this must be annoying for the imaginary people who are watching me do this, or the, the enemies I'm just like repeatedly fucking up with this magnet pull. But the game does do a good job of varying the runs, and like the weapons all play pretty differently, I would say. So I'm like pleasantly surprised with that, especially because every other roguelite I've played, I guess Dead Cells is like this too, but every other roguelite I've played has just like mad characters in it. Like you can play as like 10 or 15 different characters, and it's pretty core to Hades that you are Zagreus. Like if you had another playable character, I don't think the story would be, they couldn't do the story in the way that they're doing, since you're like trying to reach your mother and talk to her. But the way that they introduce variety is by having all these different weapons, which feels like you're a different character because it plays completely differently, which is a good compromise, I think.
I love it when you can turn a weapon that was built to do a specific thing into like basically a completely different weapon. Like I especially with the fists, I feel like you can turn the fists into a different kind of gun very easily. I love doing that, because you just like, you get the magnet cutter and then like, I don't know, chain lightning on your attack, and it's just like, oh, this is these boxing gloves are now a gun. And that fucking rocks. Or you get the Daedalus hammer upgrade where you get a longer attack, and it's just like, oh this is a distance weapon. Like, now I've completely changed the mechanic of how this works.
Right.
Have you gotten the final form of any of the weapons?
Just the lance, just the aspect of Guan Yu.
Yeah, that's the one I got, and I was like, "This is
so
nuts!"
hard.
It really changes everything because you like get less health, but the spear is much stronger, and it's like,
Yeah.
I got fucked up when I played with it.
I have not made it to Elysium with Aspect of Guan Yu yet. I think that's like my next little project, essentially, is like, how far can I get with this? Like, can I want to get to the surface because one, it will fulfill a prophecy. Like, it's not even beat the boss. It's like, get to the surface with it. They understand what they've done. But it's, so Aspect of Guan Yu, it lowers your health to 60, all health items, including items that add more health to your health total are just like, also like less powerful. But the spin attack, instead of being a stationary spin, is like a disc you throw out that will gain you a little bit of health. So if you play it right, every time you get attacked, every time you get hit, you can get your health back. It completely changes what the spear is. It completely changes what the spear is. I've spoiled myself on the rest of what the aspects are, and a lot of them are really fun. I think the gun gets aspect of Lucifer, which just turns it into a laser, which I can't wait for.
That's so
That's
sick.
Amazing. That's
so
amazing.
fucking sick.
God.
It's incredible how much game is in this game.
Right.
We've all been, like, it's just like it's not just that it is an incredibly mechanically satisfying roguelike, or that it is like a very like heartfelt narrative that's very well acted. I love the voice acting, and I had no idea that Zagreus is voiced by Darren Korb, who is also the composer for this game and all of Supergiant Games.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's Darren Korb, baby. And he's just killing it again and again, as he always does. It is like they've created a beautiful mechanic soup that just adds more things that actually fit perfectly. It's like each new puzzle piece somehow has been expertly crafted to make this game just that much more complex and much more narratively and mechanically interesting.
Absolutely. They've made something very special with this one for sure. I think we should probably wrap it there. We're about to hit 2 hours and 40 minutes on my recording. I'm sure a lot of that gets cut out because there was a big gap in the middle, but so thank you all for listening. We're not going to have any questions today because we're already going long, but you can send questions to gaming@vice.com with the word question in the subject line so that it hits our filters and we can pull them out for when we do question bucket episodes. You can find us on Twitter @Waypoint. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/WaypointDevice. Austin, who is not here anymore, is on Twitter @Austin_Walker, and Patrick is @Patrick Klepek on Twitter. Gita, where can we find you?
You can find me @XOXOGossip Gita.
Jason.
I'm @Jason_Koebler, KOEBLER, and I'm going to use this chance to plug the mail, which is our zine. You can check that out at vice.com/themail. Our first zine went out. We have another one being printed next week. Anyone who subscribes will obviously get both zines, and then there's going to be at least one more next month. It's awesome, fun
Who
project.
said print
Check
media
it out.
was dead? It's great.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, baby.
Yeah.
I've got something in the upcoming zine. I think it'll be very fun for people to read.
Hell yeah.
So
Yeah,
Great.
it's
I'm excited
wonderful.
Look out for that. I'm Cado @A_Cado_appears on Twitter. Shoutouts to Bowen for our theme music, Miss You, from the EP Pale Machine. You can find out more about that at waypoint.zone/BOEN. Thank you all very much for hanging out with us. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. We will be skipping next episode on Monday. Shoutouts, fuck Christopher Columbus, and peace.
The worst. He's the worst.
Yeah, he sucks.
Center
We're also
News
the
sign
worst
off.
forever
Fuck Christopher
celebrating
Columbus
him.
in peace.
Fuck Christopher
Fuck Christopher Columbus.
Peace. Love it.